Great Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's your midday hang. Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan, with Annie Heilbrunn and Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten with you in our Odyssey studios overlooking overcast Murphy Canyon, ready for 4 hours of live local San Diego sports talk radio with you. We will go till 2 o'clock. That's when we will turn things over to Gwynn and Scrabes for a very short show, just a half hour. 3:40 is the first pitch today for the series finale between the San Diego Padres and the Houston Astros. And if today's game, Annie, is anything like the last two nights' games, we're in for a good one this afternoon.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Last night's game was drunk. Go home, baseball. Yeah. You're drunk. You know what? It was great because it was September baseball. I mean, it was intense September baseball where you got a guy taking off his shoe, trying to prove a point. You've got weird, wild pitches. You've got replays that are clearly showing one thing but are still being called that he got hit by a ball for Profar. And I mean, there was so much going on where it was like every single play mattered. Every single opportunity mattered because both teams so badly wanted to win that game. So I loved it, but wow, it was quite the ride.
I was texting with Braden in the late innings, and I was like, if this winds up a walk-off, I think about the time that Jose Altuve took his sock off. Yeah. I said, if this winds up a walk-off, it's moving into the top 10 of games all year. Yeah, well, walk-off, sock-off. I mean, Altuve got walked off by the ump. Take a walk. Go put your shoes back on, buddy. Go find a slider.
See your feet. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, that toe's nasty. What are you doing?
Padres-Astros games have been drunk for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Completely
They really
wild.
have.
So, unfortunately, San Diego did not win the game.
That was a bummer. I do think, though, I mean, look, both teams, obviously trying to get every inch they could in yesterday's game. The umpiring, the officiating did not help matters yesterday. It allowed a really great game that could have just been a little bit greater if the umpiring hadn't gotten in the way. Because both teams were coming for it, So, yeah, it would have been obviously better for the Padres to win. Didn't lose too much ground, but also didn't get the opportunity of gaining a game on the Dodgers and the Braves, who also lost. Well, really the Dodgers, right? The Diamondbacks.
They could have gained a game on everyone except the Mets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They lost a game to the Mets. They gained a game, or they held ground on L.A. and Arizona when both of them would have conceded a game in the standings to them if the Padres had pulled that one out. And certainly I thought they were gonna. This is the kind of game we've seen the Padres play, I'd say, all summer.
Yeah, it was a magic game. Here comes the magic.
Precisely. All the exciting, Manny's moment, the Altuve nonsense, just even in the bottom of the ninth, you thought somebody's going to find a way. Okay, Hader has his moment. Fine. You get to the 10th, Manfred Mann scores. And to be honest, Manfred Mann scores and that's it. For Houston, they get it on a little dunker to left field. And I'm thinking to myself, no problem, because this team, the Padres, has done a better job of getting their free base runner home than almost anyone in baseball. That's why they were 9-1 in extra innings going into yesterday. And, boy, they got him to third with nobody out and somehow, some way, found a way not to score Tyler Wade, or Tyler Wade chose not to score.
Well, he wasn't looking for a contact play there for Tyler Wade, but also I don't know that he would have made. Well, I guess, though, look, the whole biscuit thing, maybe you got to try, but I thought he might have been out if he would have tried there. But the play wasn't on anyways for him. We could debate that for sure. But I do think, look, when you got the guy on third and, you obviously need to find a way to get him home. That is a thing that we learned last year that happened to the Padres quite a bit. Has not happened very much this year for the Padres. I thought Manny hitting that 103 ball off his bat was going to get through. But is his name Kessinger? Is that
yes?
Kessinger. I mean, what a great play he made, just getting that ball, sliding to get that ball. That had a chance for sure. Jerks and Profar mad, as he should be, that he didn't get to finish with the bat in his hands. The replay review showed he wasn't hit by a ball, and yet somehow they thought he was still hit by a ball, so he trotted over to take his base. But, the glare that he had at the end of the game, I feel like is going to be used today in his plate appearances to do some damage. Manny Manny, wow, with that, you could just feel that at-bat swelling when those 2 strikes were called that were clearly not in the strike zone. And you knew he was going to do damage at that point. You just didn't know what it was going to be. But that 2-run home run, so clutch right there. But it was weird. I mean, look, when the Astros, I had the same thought as you. When the Astros had 2 guys left in there in the 10th, 2 guys left on base, and they only got the 1 in. Anytime the Padres are down by a 1 run these days, I'm like, it's not enough. Like, you got like, hey, other team, nope, you didn't do it. Like, they're gonna be able to overtake that. Didn't happen last night, but it does happen quite a bit for these Padres.
I mean, it's even the best guys in the team. I mean, a rise up, you think it's for sure that the run is going to come in. Now, I will tell you that watching it, I understand the argument against the contact play. I understand it. It is,
especially with the guys you have
correct.
At the plate.
It's managed risk.
You have the top of the order. Yeah.
It's managed risk. Mm-hmm. It's saying, even though historically the odds of getting a hit in big league baseball is low, it's right? We like these 3 players and potentially these 4 players to just get a hit at some point. But especially with no outs, as opposed to 1 out.
A sac fly, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
with 1 out, the contact play is routinely put on.
Yeah.
Like with 1 out, that is a routine thing that happens in baseball. Okay, infield's in, contact play, go, go, go. But the Padres made that choice. And either the Padres directly made that choice, which I think is the case, or Wade was being very conservative. Because Letters to AJ put out another piece this morning. It was really well done. Great use of screenshots and close-ups to show how conservative Tyler Wade's lead was off third base. He was like a step off third base. He was at the point where if someone ever threw, he would just have to step back and he would be on the base. However, when the ball bounced away from Diaz on ball 4, no chance for him to try and advance there. And on the no-out grounder, which when it hit the plate, that was the whole thing. Like, honestly, I was watching that on TV. I was stunned because it was a chopper. It hit off the plate, and that's the kind of play a runner scores on all the time. Yeah. All the time. And so when I saw them flip to second, I went, oh, great, run scores. And I was like, oh, no, they didn't score. What? Why didn't the run score? And I had to go back and really look through it. And clearly they only were going on a hit there and not saying, Tyler, go. And, that's the only, in a beautiful night, it truly was. It was a beautiful baseball night. That is the only nit I have to pick because what has our team been all year? We've been the aggressive team that takes the extra inch and goes for every marginal risk and risks it for the biscuit, right? And there was no risk and there was no biscuit in the bottom of the 10th inning.
Yeah, it's debatable for sure. I mean, I don't know exactly, what was Tyler Wade told, what was Tyler Wade just deciding, what was he seeing on the field, but it to me looked like a calculated thing of, okay, we're going to get their runner home, but we're not going to, be too uber aggressive where we get called out, or we don't get the play at home, but I get it, and I think that's something I'm sure that they're looking at too, and having conversations about. This is a team that likes to have a lot of conversations, which helps them very much, and is a good thing. So and I think, look, they were getting in opportunities too. I mean, they were getting in opportunities, but just that one, it didn't go their way. When so many times I was with you, I'm watching that going, oh, this is going to be another walk-off. It's like every other game that the Padres have, where it's another walk-off, right? But just didn't happen last night. But a lot of interesting things happening. I mean, even Hader coming out to the booze and then, waiting out there for 10 minutes and then that first pitch being thrown and Tatis running home, being thrown in the dirt. I mean, that was just such a ironic baseball thing to happen.
Braden can confirm. I literally called that. I was like, he's going to throw a wild pitch.
Yeah.
Just the whole buildup and all the weight and the fact that we just wild pitched in a run.
Right.
And him coming in with a runner on third and having watched Hader over the course of a year and a third and seeing how many times he puts it in the dirt, especially on his first batter before he kind of gets locked in. I really thought that wild pitch was coming. It came. It was part of a truly entertaining, exciting. This was a game that conjured up to me that 1975 Game 6 of the World Series, and the Red Sox are celebrating, and Pete Rose says, what a game, we'll get him tomorrow.
Yeah, look, and I mean, that's what's going to be fun about today. These two teams are both going to want to win this series, and the Astros, after the game, kept commenting about how much this felt like a playoff game. Petco Park to them felt like a playoff atmosphere, and that is, practice. I mean, this is practice for everyone in terms of the players. Last night, I'm blanking on which player talked about it. I think it was Michael King. It had to have been Michael King. Talked about how they are utilizing PitchCom to make sure that they can hear in playoff atmospheres. They're making sure that it's that the hitter can't hear. The problem that you have with PitchCom is that if you turn it up too loud and you crank it, the hitter can hear the call. So there's like a little tube that you can use that goes in your ear so that, so like they're fine tuning all these things to make sure that when playoffs come or when these big games are happening, they've made sure they've dotted every I and crossed every T and things are working the way they need to. So you had that going. I see in the chat, Andros is saying that the second ball Manny Machado received that he didn't think was a strike was actually a strike in that home run at bat that he had.
No, that's true.
Yeah, and that's true. But and you know what's funny? The umpire apologized to him after the plate appearance or whatever. The umpire said sorry for the first one. Yeah. And Manny was like, no problem. Thank you. I got the home run. You did me a favor, I
mean, what a moment. And Manny has authored these moments all year. These big brother moments. It's like put the chip on his shoulder and watch him go. This reminded me so much of the at-bat after Profar. The whole thing with him and Keibert Ruiz against the Nationals, and then Manny steps up and just tanks Mackenzie Gore on the next pitch. That at bat felt so much like it, and that's why in the 10th you just thought Manny's coming through here, and he
almost did.
He almost did. He hit it so hard. He hit it very much similarly to the base hit he had earlier in the game. And quite possibly the difference in that game winds up being Jose Altuve's stinky toe, because when he gets thrown out, he is replaced by a much better defender, and Kessinger makes, and they just showed it again, almost a Trey Turner-esque play.
It was.
Just outstanding range, sliding, almost made it look easy. It wasn't easy. And then he pisses off Profar. Did you see that whole part of it?
I think Profar was mad at the umpire.
Profar said after the game,
was it the ump?
He was yelling at the umpire.
He was mad that they took
he
the
wanted
bat
to
away.
hit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He wasn't mad at the Astros.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought he was too on the TV.
He was still visibly upset about the umpires screwing up the hit by pitch call. That is one of the first times I've ever seen both teams screaming at the umpires for screwing up a call.
Yeah, because they reviewed it, and even on the review, he wasn't hit by the pitch.
No.
And yet they said, no, you were hit by the pitch. And so he was mad that he didn't get to finish the at-bat. Yeah, and he had to take his base. He wanted to have the bat in his hand. And I think, I think it's going to be shown in today's game.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, too. You have, when you look at the Astros, 2 for 15 they were with runners in scoring position. They left on base 9. The Padres 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They left on base 8. There weren't the greatest. I mean, it was a good pitcher's game, a good pitcher's duel. I also thought in that 10th inning yesterday, too, it was Neris, right?
Hector Neris?
Yeah, that was in the 10th. His body language was like, to me, I'm like, oh, he's going to give it up, man.
Yeah.
Like his body language, he looked so frustrated. He kept wiping his forehead. He kept kind of shaking his head. I'm like, he's like 1 or 2 pitches away from them doing some real damage off of him. But then able to lock it down and pull it off.
Indeed. What a game. What an exciting game. Last thing I'd say in this opening segment is this is going to sound weird, all right? But this is the kind of loss that I want to take 2 weeks before the playoffs and not 2 weeks from last night. 2 weeks from last night is game 1 of the wild card series. And I believe the Padres are going to be hosting that game at Petco Park. And you don't want to lose 4-3 in 10 innings in game 1 of the wild card series on a game. Then every one of these things gets multiplied and magnified by 25. And Tyler Wade is the scourge of San Diego for the day or for the year because he didn't score. And it would be unfair. It would be unfair to him, or it would be a Tim Leeper thing, or what, all of the intensity, all of the microscope. It turns up 15x when this is a playoff game. And when they say it's like a playoff game, that's perfect, because it was like a playoff game, but it wasn't a playoff game. Yeah. And so
when you come out on the losing side, it's good that it wasn't a playoff game.
It wasn't a playoff game. It was just another game on the road to the playoffs. And it's a great reminder of what it's going to take, because Houston is a playoff team. This is the last. I was thinking about this on the way in.
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston is the last good team in the majors that the Padres hadn't seen.
Yeah.
Right? There's only one other team in the bigs they haven't seen this year, and that's the Pale Hose coming in this weekend. But Houston's the last good team that they've played, and obviously they're good. They could easily make the ALCS again for the 1,100th year in a row. They are solid top to bottom. They've got Hall of Famers on their team. They've got great. Hunter Brown was really, really good last night.
He definitely was. Yeah.
He's dominant. They've got Hader. They've got,
and Framber Valdez is probably going to be really good today, and
sure.
Cease too, but. They have a good team, and you can tell they have also a battle test. I mean, they were so far down in the standings to start the year. They've also been battle tested. They've had to fight and get their way out.
100%. They've been there. They've done that. They're the type of team that you have to beat to win a World Series. So, yes, pat on the back, moral victory, good loss, go get them tomorrow. All of that applies today. 2 weeks from now, none of that applies. 2 weeks from now, this is the disastrous start to the playoffs that we've all dreaded, blah, 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 blah. So it's a great time to take this loss. It's a great time to remember it. It's a great time to recognize where the level is. And the beautiful thing is it's clear the Padres can play at that level. They've got it in them.
I think that's a great point. Nothing really spooks them. They're like, okay, let's get after it. Let's figure out a way to get it done here. Let's tighten this up on defense. And I think that was great to see. Even look, Jason Adam, not his best night, but also the guy still only gave up 1 run. I mean, still 2 runs in 23 innings or whatever, in 24 innings. Weird things happened, but I think their ability to not let the game crumble in on them is a trademark that we've seen from them this year, and they continued it last night in a very, very intense situation.
Very intense. We've got a great show lined up for you, in our opinion, as we always think we do, rolling with a full 4-hour program today. We have 2 guests, and they both wound up landing in the Padres Deep Dive Hour as a result of scheduling, because one of them is out of state. So coming up at 11, we will welcome to the show for the first time Sean Pendergast. I've known Sean just way back when. He actually used to be a caller to Rome's show. He's one of those guys who got his start as a huge caller and then wound up working his way up and up and up through the radio business until he found a job in Houston, and then he found a better job in Houston, and then he moved to the #1 station, and now he's the co-host of the morning show on Sports Radio 610 in Houston. Payne and Pendergast. He's been on I've heard him on these airwaves on weekend shows in past years, past iterations. So Sean Pendergast will be on at 11 to talk about things from the Stros perspective, and we'll get an update on some of the other things happening in Houston sports as well. We can ask him about Texans. College football's fun all the time to ask anybody about it. It's so crazy these days. Sammy Levitt then joins us at 11:35. And we'll get our weekly check-in with Sammy coming up. So Deep Dive Hour will be fun with a couple of different interviews in there. We'll do the 12 o'clock Sports Fix, of course, at the midpoint of the show and the week. Today's silly game is Fast Money. We got that rolling for you today. The bonus round from Family Feud. We'll do that around 12:45 and ask us anything to wrap up the show. Stay right here, friends. We are back to update the hunt for October. And if you're one of those folks that's been on me in the chat for weeks, why aren't you talking more about the division? It's the division or bust. Well, I hope y'all are hanging your heads this morning. I hope last night was the crushing blow to you that it was to their divisional hopes.
No.
Yeah, it was.
That was a huge missed opportunity.
No, absolutely.
A missed opportunity, but they're not out of the ability to get the
It's a crushing blow.
They got 10 games left.
It was a missed opportunity.
Blow.
Yes. Okay. It's a
hard
road to climb.
We'll talk about it when we come back.
But not impossible.
Of course.
All right, let's win the next 10 in a row.
There it is. It's Annie and Elsten. We're back.
Wait, are we talking Padres and Dodgers?
Yes.
There's 10 games left. They're 3.5 back, and the Dodgers are going to lose to Miami and the Rockies a bunch. They're taking chances.
They didn't look. How about
more of this exact conversation
fine.
after this break on Annie and Elsten. Not going to lie, and I was saying it to the folks I was with last night. In that 8th inning, in that 9th inning, in that 10th inning, I was thinking about the first 2 segments of today's show. I was already thinking about it. And the thing I was thinking is that we were going to start today's show saying, NL West, it's in play. Let's go. Let's go. It's time. We are in range. We can do it. It's real now. We've done everything we have to do to actually be in range, to somehow beat the $1 billion Dodgers in their $1 billion season and have them not win the division. It was all there right in front of them. And they kicked the opportunity. They kicked it.
It would have been, with a win, the Padres would have been within 2.5.
2.5 games.
But what if the Dodgers lose today and the Padres win? Aren't you right back where you would have been yesterday, but with 1 game less?
So the Dodgers, yes, of course. If the I had this conversation with my dad this morning.
Oh, hello, Craig's dad.
If the Dodgers want to lose all their games, if they want to lose every game the rest of the season,
would they have to lose everyone?
Not everyone, but it's getting that way, Annie. It's getting that way. Then, yes, of course, the Padres will win the West. The Dodgers will fall completely out of the universe if they lose all their games the rest of the way. But they're not going to, because it's baseball and it's L.A. and it's Marlins. It's Rockies. These are the teams they're playing. Every time the Dodgers lose to one of those teams, that's a gift. That's a baseball gift. That's the unexpected, right? And yesterday, that was handed to San Diego. That result was posted on the Jumbotron, before the first pitch was thrown in San Diego. And listen, it was a great game. Baseball happens. I'm not here to throw any shade or anything else. What I'm saying is that was for the folks who were like literally mad at me when I'm saying I don't think about it. And that's all I ever said. I don't think about the division until the last week of the year when we look up and go, are we in or are we out? Are we within range that we ourselves and ourselves alone can get us to the NL West without needing something ridiculous, like, for example, the Dodgers to lose 5 times to the Rockies? Right now, that's about where we are, is the Dodgers have to lose. We've got 3 games against them. So, yes, the Padres can sweep their way to a half game.
You'd have to sweep them pretty much, right, when you face them.
Right. And they have to lose another game along the way.
You could win against the White Sox, and maybe you sweep the White Sox.
And then we have to sweep the Diamondbacks while they get swept in Colorado. Or match them exactly. So, right now, you have to sweep L.A., plus they lose another game to Florida or Colorado while we win all our games. Not as easy as just controlling it yourself.
Things have to happen. It's not out of the question, but yes, things have to happen. And the Padres, in order to do that, would have to obviously win. They need to win. It's not that crazy to think that they're going to lose again to the Rockies or the Marlins, just because sometimes weird stuff happens in baseball. And if your team is like hanging by a brink, or just kind of hanging on the edge a little bit, sometimes you lose a few and then you get back going again or whatnot. But I don't know. The Diamondbacks have kind of fallen off a little bit. Like the Diamondbacks are now tied with the Mets. And that's not to say that they can't get right back on. And who knows? You don't want that to happen, but the Padres could fall off. Anyone can fall off at any time, right? But I don't know. It's still, to me, it's like they lost 1 game's amount of time, but it's still not completely out of reach that they could do it.
There's 11 games left for the Dodgers, and there's 10 left for the Padres. What do you think the Dodgers are going to do in their next 11 games, Annie? What do you, if you had to pick what their record would be?
I mean, I would say that they'll win at least half.
At least half. Yeah. So you think
7
wins?
6-5 then.
6-5. If the Dodgers go 6-5, the Padres have to go 9-1 to tie for the division lead.
And importantly, all 3 wins against LA.
Right.
It can't be 9-1 and one of those losses is to LA. It's 9-1 with the LA sweep in LA. So not impossible.
It's not impossible. They already won the tiebreaker though, so it doesn't.
Right.
It's all about like what your record is at the end of the year. So like you would then if you didn't sweep the Dodgers in LA, that means they would have got swept somewhere in Colorado at least one time.
Which is, I don't think they're going to get swept in Colorado.
Right. I mean, so at this point, the best the Padres can do is win 96 games. That's going 10-0. And if the Padres go 10-0, the Dodgers can have to go 7-4 in order for the Padres to tie for the division lead.
Right.
That's just
a long shot. I get what you're saying.
It's people. I used to fall into this all the time. You sit there and you see the numbers 3.5, and there's 10 games left, and you're like, oh, it's obtainable.
Yeah. Oh, it's really doable.
But the reality is, it's not, and that's why I always use the series game, because in series it's always like you're trying to take 2 out of 3. Even if the Padres would have won last night and picked up a game, if they lose tomorrow and the Dodgers win, you're back to where you started anyway.
Right.
The only way you make up ground is by you have to win series and they lose series. So with 3.5 games behind and only 4 series left, you have to win the next 3 series and the Dodgers have to lose the next 3 series in order for you to do it. So unless they completely get their ass handed to them for the next 11 games, the chances are very, very slim. That's why that website we've been using gives the Padres a 5% chance of winning the division. And last night, it would have drastically changed things.
Yes,
and
it would have doubled it at least. It would have at least doubled their odds.
But like the Padres also, I mean, like, again, not this. No one wants this to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But no playoff spot is locked. I mean, if the Padres lost the rest of the games from here on out, they're not even going to the playoffs, right? I mean, baseball is weird. Weird things happen within a span of a week, and it's a long shot. I get it, and I don't even know that should be their goal. I think it's what we talked about yesterday. It's get in the postseason, then lock up the best seeding that you can, right? Like first clinch, then lock up your best seeding. And you worry about it when you get to that series, probably with the Dodgers, and see where your numbers are.
You got to be within 2 games going into Chavez Ravine. But if you are 2 games back at Chavez Ravine, you have to sweep them.
Right.
Because if you take 2 out of 3, it's not good enough.
No, you're a game back.
You're going to gain a game, and you're 1 game back, and you got to play Arizona 3 times, and they got the Rockies.
Right. And Arizona's playing for their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's exactly what was just said. It's a 1 out of 20 chance. So, yes, 1 out of 20 chances happen. I've seen it. I've seen the, set over set in poker. I've seen somebody on a 20-sided die roll a 1 when they had to roll a 1. I've seen it happen. But the fact that it's happened in existence doesn't mean that we're going to get the 5%er to roll through. If we had won last night, then suddenly it's actually within your direct control.
Yeah, 2.5 feels a lot more palatable.
And you know what?
Because your 3 games,
right.
you can
win them.
Right, that's it. You can cover the whole thing and then just play even to the Dodgers the rest of the way. Then it would totally be like, hey, they drop another game here or there. That gives us the cushion to drop another game here or there and still win the NL West. But right now, it's win out, sweep LA if they're going to win the NL West. If they had won yesterday, completely different story. And that's why it was only a crushing blow yesterday to one thing, which was their division hopes. It was a crushing blow to the Padres' division hopes yesterday, just like LA winning against Atlanta on Monday was a huge deal. That was the last time they faced a winning team other than us the rest of the year. And if they had dropped that game, again, huge moment for us. Didn't happen. So I'm very comfortable with the idea of the rapidly imploding Dodgers with their pitching staff that is now down to Flaherty, whatever the trainer's room can prop up of Yamamoto.
Down to someone from the fans in the stands coming out of the game.
Honestly, like
using his arm.
Almost every aspect of the Dodgers pitching staff is in flames right now.
But I would not write off. The point being is that the Dodgers have been here, done that. They also are a championship-winning organization. And certainly I wouldn't necessarily write them off as losing every game from here on out.
Right. The Padres' magic number went down yesterday. It went down to 6. So now it's 6 wins or 6 wins plus Mets, Braves losses that lock the Padres into the playoffs. They could drop it to 5 or 4 today. They could knock it down. They could clinch before they leave home.
Yeah.
if things break right, and then we're just talking about seeding next week. And once again, I will say once again for the guy in the back row or someone who tuned in midway, if the Dodgers want to lose all their games and they want to tank their way out of the division, amazing. The Padres will happily accept that gift and be NLS champions this year. Doesn't mean, by the way, that it would clinch a bye in the playoffs to do that. We talked about this yesterday. The scenario by which the Padres win the division and get the bye is only now winning out. It's winning every game, because the real way to win the NL West is for the Dodgers to lose their way back to you, and then you go past them in the last week and you win. But that's probably not going to be a record better than Milwaukee's.
I think it's going to be an entertaining week.
The website says differently.
Does it?
It's a higher percentage of the Padres to be the 2 seed than it is to be the 3 seed.
Interesting.
5% to 2%. I think it's if the Padres go on the tear that they would have to go on to win the division, they would pass Milwaukee in the process.
And see, I just look at it the other way. I look at it as the Dodgers would have to lose their way back, but I don't think a computer can think about a Dodgers team losing a bunch, because they're built for the computer.
If the if you take the scenario if the Dodgers go 7-4 and Padres go 10-0, right? The Padres are going to have a bye. The only situation in which they wouldn't are those situations where I think it's like the Dodgers go 3-something and the Padres barely go above 500 or whatever it was.
Right.
That would be the 2%. But more scenarios than not lead to the Padres being the 2 seed if they win the division.
I agree, it's long shots, but until things are mathematically eliminated,
sure.
I just think baseball's weird. Like, these are teams playing out of desperation at this point. Not necessarily desperation, but trying to shore up any holes they might have, trying to get these last wins. There's weird pressure, there's fatigue, there's guys trying to hang on with an injury just so they can give an at-bat or whatever, and it works out and it doesn't work out sometimes. And so I just think that there's weird things that happen this last week. Now, it might all go exactly according to what you guys are saying, because the better teams might win out. I tell you what, I was reading Jeff Passan's really long feature on the White Sox yesterday, and how they are a club that is very united, actually, and their players are actually doing the best they can to enjoy this season and believe in themselves. And so, I mean, look, do I think that the White Sox are going to come in here and sweep the Padres? I don't, but you just never know what weird stuff happens with the Rockies, the Marlins, with the Padres and the Dodgers playing each other. Weird stuff happens sometimes.
The other factor, Craig, too, and somebody actually just put in the chat, is the Padres already won the season series with the Brewers. So that gives them the nod.
Oh, that's true. That's true. They only have to tie Milwaukee.
They only have to tie Milwaukee.
That's a great point.
So wait, what are you saying?
They're only a game and a half behind Milwaukee.
Yeah, the Padres won the season series against Milwaukee 5-2. So if they did finish with them tied in the standings, they would be ahead of them.
So they host.
They would in the situation where in the wild ass scenario that we're cooking up here, where the Padres wind up as the NL West champion with the exact same record as Milwaukee. They both win 95 games on the year. Then San Diego would be the 2 seed, Milwaukee the 3. Because of tiebreaker. Then they would get the bye.
Then
they would get the bye.
Wow.
So they would get the bye.
And the thing is, too, is we could be realists on the radio, but the clubhouse, I still think, should just have that mindset of one game at a time. Let's hunt down the Dodgers and see what happens.
Keep the foot on the gas, absolutely.
Right. I mean, we're not saying the Padres should give up the division at all by any means, but just in kind of a reality situation for all you fans out there, this is what it has to take in order to do said thing. It's not us being negative. This is just what they have to do. It's a very difficult task, and a lot of things are not in their control. But from a club, just from a coaching perspective as a team, let's focus on ourselves, and if we take care of our business, we'll see where the cards fall, and maybe we could go get the division. But from us on the radio, we could be. We're not in the clubhouse.
Right.
We're not telling this. We're not setting the standard.
Right.
It's like, hey, guys, in reality,
we're talking to you guys, the audience.
You're gonna need a lot of things to go your way for it to happen. That's why there is only a 5% chance of winning it.
Okay, and if you thought any of that was negative, let me cap it, because we got to go to break with the reverse of it, all right? If you think that we are saying that it's, oh, God, why are you saying that? It's so hard for us to beat L.A. Guess what? It's harder for the Braves to catch us.
It is.
Than it is for us to catch LA. It's
hard.
It's harder.
The Braves have put themselves in a very difficult situation. To me, the Braves are playing themselves out of the playoffs, and the other teams are playing themselves in. But
how about this for a positive? Padres have a less than 1% chance to not make the playoffs.
There you go.
Right.
It's
They're at like
less than 1%.
99.4.
Their magic number's down to 6. They got a 72% chance of getting the 4 seed, 16% chance of not hosting a wild card, and a 5% chance that they have to go to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty positive right now.
That's where we are.
Which is a good place to be. A great place to be.
It's a beautiful place to be. And that's where the Padres are. When we come back, a Woj bomb. Oh, a Woj bomb has been a huge part of the media story in the National Basketball Association for years and years. The last Woj bomb. No more Woj. We'll talk about it when we come back. I mean, he still exists. And guess where he's going? We'll tell you when we come back. Annie and Elsten on the Fan. if you're a fan of the NBA, there's this game within the game, every trade deadline, every draft, pretty much every day, right? I mean, you've got all the superstar players going head to head. And then to bring you the news, you had Woj and Shams going head to head every day. Adrian Wojnarowski at ESPN and Shams Charania at The Athletic, and he works for some of the sports book websites and whatnot, and they'd always be competing to get the tweet out first on where James Harden's trade negotiations stand, or the next spot for Kyrie Irving, or who's going to be the fourth pick in the draft, and like literally everything in between. So Wojnarowski, who, I mean, sterling reputation.
Yeah, done terrific work.
Absolutely. Earned it, But you've got to imagine, Annie, and it's a level that goes way beyond anything even that you and I have done in media, to be the insider, right? The insider, the person with responsibility to break stories, a la Adam Schefter, a la Jeff Passan, right? The people who, if it's not your tweet, it's not real news yet. So you've got to be plugged in to everyone. You've got to take every text. You've got to make every text, right? You've got to be so proactive in all those. It's got to be exhausting.
100%. There's so much behind the scenes here to unpack when you are at the level that he is at, or even a top beat writer in a city and one that breaks news. So much pressure on you all the time, because you are supposed to be the guy that always puts it out. Like, you are supposed to have all the information. You never sleep. You've got probably like 3 phones. You don't take any kind of holidays or weekends. Like, none of that exists. And then also think about the type of people you're dealing with. Sometimes you're dealing with a lot of people who lie to you. You're dealing with a lot of people who screw you over. It is a lot, and can be very exhausting. And you're kind of always chasing the thrill of that next thing that you get to put out, that next news you get to break. But that will take its toll, no doubt about it.
And you're also chasing Shams. Did Shams get it first?
Did
sure. I get it first? If he got it, now the boss is going to say something.
In this world of social media, and where breaking news matters, even though it's so ridiculous. I mean, you don't ever really even think about who put the news out first. You start to look at, after you hear the news, you just really look at the context. You're trying to understand the news or whatever. Like, who put it out, you forget by the next day.
Yeah.
But for those guys, it's part of their job, and they get graded or reviewed on being the first.
So Woj dropped his latest Woj bomb this morning, and it was his retirement from ESPN. He said, okay, see ya. And right before NBA training camps start too. Oh, but also right before the start of the college basketball season, because Adrian Wojnarowski is not retiring. He is changing jobs, and he is taking a job that I didn't know existed until recently. It never existed, which is being the general manager of a college basketball program. And that's what he's going to be for St. Bonaventure, for the Bonnies, his alma mater. He is going back. He's been a supporter of the program for years, a real supporter of the program, not just like I'm a fan and I donate to the alumni. And he is now going to be the person in charge of name, image, and likeness, in charge of the contracts for the players at St. Bonaventure. And wow, he's left the media world to go to the other side.
He wrote a really nice thing. He put it up on his Twitter, a really nice statement about how he grew up the son of a factory worker 2 miles from ESPN's campus. He always dreamed of being a sports writer and making a living there. And so he got the job 37 years later. The Hartford Courant gave him his first byline, and he never stopped chasing the thrill of it all. So I love that. That's really cool to make the switch over to be the GM of a school that he obviously has a connection to, and is quite a jump. Honestly, I know this is so stupid. He has 6.5 million followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happens to your Twitter account? Like, what do you do? Like,
I would shut her down.
That thing is worth something though. 6.5 million.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's worth something to be sure, but. What are you going to just put up St. Bonaventure propaganda every day? You'll lose those followers in a right hot hurry.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? Picture of a dog or something.
Hey, don't forget the St. Bonaventure Fall Fest is coming up this October 24th. Come on out and support St. Bonnie's by buying cupcakes. I have a feeling that the Twitter numbers are going to decline.
Yeah.
For Woj. Yeah. But congratulations to Woj. I mean, incredible, but just a wild decision. Here's what's wild about it. It's the intersection of things that we talk about on this show all the time. The ever-changing world of college sports. Now a program, even the level of St. Bonaventure, needs a general manager.
I mean, Braden, it's weird, right? I mean, it's something that's not seen really before recently.
I just saw a couple months ago, I saw they had this huge article, I think it was in The Athletic, about the general manager for the Alabama Crimson Tide football program and how much money he makes. I mean, he makes like $450,000 a year to be the general manager of Alabama football and take care of all the NIL stuff and, help with the recruiting and make sure everything's run smoothly and, which is different than a director of football operations. So, I mean, a lot of schools are adding this new job. It's very intriguing. I mean, it's a very interesting job. That's I'm curious to see how it plays out for all these other schools. But if you got a school like St. Bonaventure with a general manager, does San Diego State basketball have a general manager? I mean, I feel like San Diego State basketball has had a pretty prowess history, and I think they're big enough to have their own general manager.
Well,
I mean,
St. Bonaventure is
right. Like when are we going to start seeing this out here locally? But I get it.
Colleges are just turning pro, man.
They are. I mean, I think they're all getting ready for the pro flip when they start leasing logos and facilities from schools. But at the same time, with these general managers, we talked about this off air, it takes a lot of stuff, like a lot of responsibility off the head coach's plate of all this business stuff that they have to tend to. And Annie, you mentioned about Sean Lewis, finding his zen really on the football field because people don't understand. Head coaches in college athletics and even high school, they don't really coach. They're there to run a business on top of coaching, and now you take that part away to take it off their plate with general managers. I think it's a good call by a lot of colleges.
The ever-changing world.
Congrats to Woj.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what's on the Twitter.
And the happiest person this morning was Shams.
Yeah, he's like, I reign supreme.
Exactly. He's like, this Woj bomb I love.
He woke up, went back to bed. He's like, yes.
Yeah, he goes, I'll break another story in a minute. I don't really have to work as hard anymore. Woj is signing kids at St. Bonnie's. We're back with Sean Pendergast to kick off the deep dive next. Great to have you with us for hour number 2 of your midday hang. It's Andy and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn, Craig Elsten, Braden Suprenant, all in our Odyssey studios, ready for the Padres Deep Dive Hour. It begins now. Brought to you by Frozen Ropes Baseball and Softball Training Facilities. Now introducing the Freezy Batting Cage membership for just $79 a month. For more information, visit SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com. Well, excited to have on the show, Annie, for the first time, a guy I've known for many years in the business. I remember just one time he was out on vacation here in San Diego, catching up with Sean Pendergast, who worked his way steadily up the sports media empire to the point that now he is doing mornings on Sports Radio 610 in Houston as the co-host of Payne and Pendergast. And Sean is joining us for a little Houston perspective coming off of that epic game last night at Petco Park. Sean, Craig, and Annie here in San Diego. Thanks so much for your time.
It's great to talk to both of you guys. How are we doing?
Doing excellent, my friend. Doing well.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it, man.
It was a wild one last night, man. We're still recovering from that. You got to keep in mind, they started 8:40 here, these games. Yes. So you're watching stuff like what happened last night at 11 o'clock at night, kind of drifting in and out of sleep on the recliner, and it's like a fever dream, man. That was a wild one last night.
Well, it felt like a playoff game. The Astros talked about it feeling like a playoff game, and for Houston, I know you guys are in I think I would just call it a slightly more defined situation. You're going to win the AL West. Seattle is trying to bird dog you back, but it's not going to happen. Nonetheless, that's got to be an affirming win for Houston heading toward their playoff future.
Yeah, I think so. The Astros have been a strange team this year because they got off to an awful start. They started the season 7-19. So and on June 18th, they lost to the White Sox, which is like the worst thing that can happen to any team in any sport. And they found themselves 10 games back in the division on June 18th. And by like August 19th, they had the lead in the division. They made up 10 games in like a matter of a month or a month and a half. It was crazy. So they're back to playing what the type of baseball we expect to see from the Astros. But the crazy thing about the second half of the season is they've actually played better against the good teams than they have against the lesser lights in baseball. And I consider San Diego one of the good teams. So yeah, that was cool to see last night, and they're abysmal in extra innings. So to steal an extra innings game felt really, really good too.
Sean, I'm curious, what was the difference? What was the change for them where they were able to, I mean, obviously a winning team, a winning organization historically, right? But how are they able to turn it around? What do you think made the biggest difference?
I think they had crazy injuries in their starting rotation, like wild. Like they at one point had an injured list of starting pitchers that I think like 90% of the teams in baseball, if these guys were healthy, would gladly take them as their starting rotation. They had Verlander on the IL and Christian Javier threw a no-hitter in the World Series a few years ago on the IL. He needed Tommy John surgery, and Lance McCullers and Luis Garcia. So they got a little healthier, but I think the biggest thing was some of the young pitchers that maybe they weren't counting on to be staples in the rotation turned out to be a whole lot better than we expected. Chief among them was Hunter Brown, who pitched last night. Pitched really well till he gave up the 2-run home run to Machado. Hunter Brown's been one of, if not the best pitcher in the American League probably since the end of May. And if it's not him, it's the guy pitching today, Framber Valdez. So those two guys at the top of the rotation, and then they managed to get a decent year out of guys like Renaud Blanco and Spencer Arrighetti. So I think that's it. And then the back end of the bullpen, which was terrible to start the season, chief among them, Josh Hader, somebody you guys know there. He was terrible the first month of the season, but he straightened it out too. He was the reliever of the month for the month of August in the American League. So I think just getting some of the pitching straightened out, they've been pretty healthy other than Kyle Tucker, losing him for a couple months with a broken shin. So I think it's just a matter of they got a lot of good players, and they started playing a whole lot better in the middle to latter part of the season.
Well, Sean, you brought up Josh Hader, and it's a natural transition point. We haven't talked about him yet on today's show, but we had some comments prior to the first game of the series being here, and then a couple more comments last night after coming in and having the house boo him extensively. But I think the irony was not lost on those Padres fans. And trust me when I tell you, a big part of that boo was that he was running in with 2 outs in the 8th inning, which was the thing that he was literally unwilling to do here in San Diego. So on a broad sense, what has the Josh Hader experience been like now that you guys gave him the bag? Clearly, he's willing to do more for the Astros.
Yeah, largely good. It's closer, and this isn't just a Hader thing, Craig, but like you guys know this, like closer is one of those positions that if you're a bad team, they're really kind of persona non grata. You don't even really care about how the closer's doing when you don't have games to close. So the first part of the season, we were either neutral or angry with Hader because he was the reason for some of the losses when they were starting out 7-19 and 12-24. Here, it's been great. He's more than willing to pitch multiple innings because he got the bag, and that was a big reason, as you guys know. I mean, the big reason he didn't want to pitch 2 innings or multiple innings back in the day is because he wanted to get as many saves as he could. So when he was done with arbitration, he could get 5 years, $95 million from Jim Crane or whoever wanted to give him that kind of money. So it's been really good here. I don't think Astro fans really care about the past as long as he's willing to pitch in crucial spots and possibly multiple innings here. And that's been a big weapon when you consider the rules in extra innings. If Hader's come in a tie game in the 9th, that he's willing to go into the 10th when you've already got a guy on second and you have that kind of guy in there instead of either some sort of, third string setup guy or a middle reliever coming in the 10th. It's a huge weapon. So Hader used to be part of the farm system here, so we've had a little bit of familiarity with him before he even got back here, but we're cool with Josh Hader. I know that's going to make your audience hate me, but we're cool with Josh Hader.
It's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
Sean, have you ever seen a player take off his shoe and his sock, his cleat and his sock, and tell an umpire, hey, look down here, look at this? And was that kind of indicative of how intense these games are right now for each team really wanting to win?
Yeah, you know what, Annie? No is the answer to your question.
Did it surprise you at all?
And then, okay, so that's another thing. Like, that was one of those things I woke up to, right? Like, it's later here than it is there. So I woke up after the game was over to a push notification from ESPN about Altuve getting ejected for taking his sock and his shoe off, and I'm like, God, I haven't done an edible in a really long time. This is what it felt like though, and I'm like, man, okay, I got to go to bed, and I'll figure out what all went on with this when I wake up. So no is the answer, but the last guy I would have expected would be Jose Altuve, who's like the ultimate gentleman. Altuve's the one guy who didn't use the garbage can thing back in the day, and yet he continues to die for everybody's sins with it. Like, everybody boos him, and he just doesn't care. He takes it. He's the nicest guy in the world. So I wouldn't have picked him to do it, but he's gotten kind of salty in the last month or so. This is not the first time he's gotten ejected in the second half of the season. This is the third time he's gotten ejected. So it's kind of fun. He started to turn into a crusty old man, I guess, but that was wild. I don't know what exactly he was looking to show him. Does a foul ball off the toe, does it draw blood? I still don't know what he was expecting to show the umpire there. That was wild.
It was great.
Look at my toe. Look at my toe.
Yeah.
It hurts really bad.
Right, yeah, exactly. Can you see it throbbing? It's throbbing. Look at that toe.
I love the umpire too was just like, I'm not looking at your foot, and just tossed him. He was having no part of it.
No, the umpire's not into that kinky stuff, man. He's not into the foot stuff. No.
Well, and I'm glad you said it right about Jose Altuve, because I had all queued up the joke about, well, he didn't want to take off his shirt, but he's perfectly happy to take off his socks. So I guess the buzzer's, buzzer's not hidden there. Buzzer's not hidden in the shoe. We figured that part out.
That's right. That's right.
Sean Pendergast joining us, morning host on Sports Radio 610 in Houston. And I mean, this Astros team sending Framber Valdez out onto the mound today. Let's talk about that to give Padres fans something to chew on for this 340 affair. Hey, it's felt like a playoff series. If it was a 3-game series, it comes down to what would be a playoff matchup. Dylan Cease, Framber Valdez. We've seen Valdez in the playoffs in the past, but what makes this guy such a relentless workhorse?
He's a bulldog, and workhorse is the big thing. He's a guy that you can largely count on to go out there and go get 6 or 7 innings every time out. He's a rock. His biggest issues early on in his career were more mental, psychological than they were physical. Like he was somebody who would we had good Framber and bad Framber, you know what I mean? And he was one of those guys. And so when the chips would kind of, the cards would start to go against him a little bit, he would let it snowball. He's minimized doing that, and he's been the best pitcher in the American League since the middle of June. The numbers are astounding. And this is what Framber looked like back in 2022 when he literally pitched 25 consecutive quality starts back in 2022 on that Astros team that won the World Series. And he wasn't even the best pitcher on his own team. Verlander won the Cy Young unanimously that year coming off of Tommy John surgery. So it's his array of pitches. He's got a nasty sinker that he's been using a lot more. He's the ultimate ground ball pitcher, so when he gets guys on base, he's usually really good at drawing double plays, but he can still hump it up there at about 97 miles an hour if he needs to with the fastball. So he's just got an amazing array of pitches. He's kind of settled down mentally, and he's dialed in right now. That's the biggest thing. Like Framber is on a heater like he was back in 2022 now. He's really, really fun to watch pitch.
Joe Espada, not new to the Astros, but new to that manager position. How's he done this year, in your opinion?
I think he's done really well. He was put in a rough spot, Annie, at the beginning of the season because, and this feels like it was 20 years ago, but Jose Abreu used to be on this team. I don't know if you guys remember old Jose Abreu, the former White Sox first baseman who the Astros gave a ton of money to heading into 2023. And he was, other than a stretch in September and October last year, literally the worst hitter in the American League over the last couple of years. Eventually, they sent him down to Florida to try to work his swing out in the rookie complex. They brought him back. It didn't get any better. Eventually, they had to cut ties with him. But that signing was completely done by Jim Crane, the owner, and Jeff Bagwell, the Hall of Fame player who's kind of an advisor to the owner, during a period in 2023 where there was no GM. They had let James Click go, and they hadn't hired Dana Brown yet. So there were like 3 horrible moves that this team had made in that time frame. And Joe Espada was left this season, early in the season, to take all the bullets for it. You know what I mean? Like, it just, as a first-time manager who's having to do press conferences after every game, like a lot of his answers weren't satisfying people, and it really wasn't his fault. So everybody was like out on Joe Espada while they're losing. But if you look, I mean, I just outlined for you guys what the injury situation was with this pitching staff. His ability to kind of stay steady during that tumultuous start and his handling of the pitching staff and the progress some of the young guys have made. And he's really had to juggle his lineup quite a bit, too, because of injuries to Kyle Tucker and sporadic injuries, little nicks and bumps to guys like Alex Bregman and Yordan Alvarez at times. I would say Joe Espada, if I had to give him a grade, I'd say like a B+, A- in his first year as manager.
Sean, kind of a meta question, at least on my side, to wrap things up. But in Houston, you obviously have so many different storylines that you guys can cover in morning radio, including C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. Mm-hmm. The Astros have been great for years, and you've got the Houston Rockets there. You've got the Dynamo. You've got the Dash as well. Yeah. Does baseball have a chance to encroach into the mindset of Houstonians on a regular basis, or is it a football town first and foremost?
It's a football town first and foremost, but you got to keep in mind, like, while the Astros have been going through this run of dominance going back to 2017, the Texans have largely been either bad at football, or when they've been good, they've been unlikable because Bill O'Brien was their head coach. So, while it's a football town, and I promise you, if the Texans do what it looks like they might be able to do this year, it's going to be like nothing we've ever seen in this town. The Astros have, and particularly the last 2 or 3 years where the Rockets and Texans have both been largely pretty bad until recently. I mean, the Astros have kind of had the love stage to themselves. The other 2 teams have either engendered frustration or anger or some weird combination of both. So like the Astros, as of right now, and we're heading into September and October, where there's, we're just spoiled. Like, there's this Pavlovian thing that we just know we're getting important baseball here in the next couple of weeks because, by God, that's what we deserve. We get it every year. I think if the Texans are what we think they are, it'll be football for sure. But the Astros have done a fantastic job, I think, of just helping keep everybody's spirits up here in town through what's been some serious doldrums with the other 2 teams.
Well, brother, it's great to chat with you. And I'm sure our paths will cross once again as our teams and interests align. And we really appreciate the time.
Hey, maybe in a few weeks. You never know, or a month, or however long it is. You never know.
You never know, man.
That'd be a lot of fun, too.
Absolutely.
Would be.
Sean, best of luck with everything. Congrats on all your success, and really appreciate some time chatting with us today.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, good. Yep, good catching up, Craig. Annie, nice meeting you over the phone. Appreciate you guys.
Sean,
all right.
You bet. Sean Pendergast, co-host of Payne and Pendergast, Sports Radio 610.
Great stuff.
Yeah, that was
great
fun.
stuff. If we had picked the Texans as our team,
I know. We would have been talking to them every week.
We would have been talking to Sean a lot,
What
right?
a missed opportunity that was.
We didn't really think that part through.
But a lot of good stuff there. I mean, a lot of interesting little notes about the Astros and what they've kind of overcome this year and what they're trying to do. And a pitching staff that I don't know, is going to be able to take them deep or not. But it's going to be interesting tonight because he talked about Framber Valdez, and the ground ball rate that he induces. And the Padres are the best in baseball at not hitting into ground ball outs, right? I mean,
well, we're team line drive.
Double plays, yeah.
Yeah, but we do ground into plenty of double plays.
Really? I thought
we lead the universe in
last.
grounded into double plays. That's our Achilles heel. It has been all year. Ground ball double play. Remember?
My bad.
Yeah, it's okay. Well,
then we'll see how it goes today. For some reason, I thought the Padres were like one of the best in baseball.
No, we're the best at not striking out.
Into...
We're the best at not striking out.
I knew that, but
we're the worst
right,
at
well,
we're the worst at grounding into double plays.
I don't feel like I've seen a lot of that.
Oh, we'll double check that number when we come back. We'll check on that and get back to you. Plus,
if it's changed.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think so, but maybe. But when we come back as well, let's talk about the back end of the bullpen. Interesting decision last night for Robert Suarez to appear in a third consecutive day in that game. Plus, a little bit more on Josh Hader, but not a lot. We'll talk about it when we return. Annie and Elsten, the Padres Deep Dive Hour underway, and Sammy Levitt at the bottom of the hour. Stay right here, friends, on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hey, we're back.
I was wrong. Looked up the numbers. I don't know what dream I was living in.
Yeah.
But the Padres do ground into quite a bit of double plays.
Well, the most.
The most. They're number one.
They're number one.
And correctly, yes, they do not strike out a lot.
Yes. But they do ground into double plays.
Because they're a contact team.
Correct.
They put the bat onto the ball.
Contact plus line drives equals some ground balls equals 129 double plays, one more than the Yankees and 5 more than the Astros.
Well,
who are at 124. So today the Padres will probably not turn a double play unless it's in the late innings because Dylan Cease is not a ground ball pitcher. Dylan Cease is an extreme fly ball / strikeout pitcher. And so also an interesting question will be how the ball flies today at Petco Park, because one of the things, amidst so many things that happened yesterday at Petco Park, one of the things that happened was Jackson Merrill getting Petco'd right after the Manny Machado homer. He thought he went back-to-back until that ball kind of died out there at the warning track.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the opposite of what happened to him the night before when he got the home run. And he was like, he's talked about it. It's a tough place to get the ball to go out of the yard. Today is a 3:40 game. They will have some shadows to contend with, so it might play a little different. But on that note, by the way, the Padres just surpassed their franchise record of home runs at Petco Park. So this year's team has hit more home runs than any other team in Petco Park history at Petco Park. So, the ball is flying out a little more this year, but still, you get Petco'd quite a bit there. No doubt about it.
You do. And I remember we talked about this at the beginning of the year, looking at the Baseball Savant Park effects and seeing that the Padres had the most home run allowing park in baseball for the year. That has only slightly changed, but it's also changed significantly. Let me explain that. It's only slightly changed in the fact that now they are ranked third. The ballpark in Mexico City is ranked number 1 with a bullet.
That should not be included. That's annoying.
Yeah.
Is that included in there?
Yeah, it's just sitting there on top.
Okay.
For the 605 plate appearances that took place there over one weekend.
Fine.
But then number 2 is Dodger Stadium at 24% above average, and number 3 is the Padres at 23% above average, 123 park rating. However, I would just like to note that the last time we did this in May or June, the Padres park factor was over 140. So it has gone down. It's gone down a little bit as the year has gone along. And maybe now, as we get into the fall, as the nip returns to the air, it might be a playoff factor, something that we haven't thought about as the ball's just been flying out of this place all year long. But that long fly ball that dies at the track could be more of a playoff feature than it has been really all year long.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch, but look, that ball will fly, and we've seen it happen so many times, and you're like, this one's out of there for sure. And you hear the broadcasters' voices raise, and they're calling it, and then it's like, and caught in front of the warning, or caught in front of the wall by so-and-so, or caught in the warning track by so-and-so. So it can be tough. It can be frustrating, and that is why in spring training, Victor Rodriguez took the hitters outside and said, we're going to do a drill today, and it's called hitting line drives. I just want you to hit line drives over and over and over. That is the big reason why. And that's worked for them at home. It's worked for them on the road. That's their main focus, is to hit line drives because of that.
When the save was blown on Sunday afternoon up at Oracle Park with Robert Suarez giving up the home run to Heliot Ramos, Mike Shildt said, I would gladly take him in a 1-run game the next day. And in a 2-run game the next day, he did. He went to Robert Suarez, and he got a 1-2-3. And I think probably most importantly, he got an 8-pitch save. Were you at least a little surprised to see him come into a tie game in the 9th inning for a 3rd straight appearance?
I was. I certainly was. And I think this is September baseball, Mike Shildt's specialty, being aggressive, going for the win, making sure he's getting his best guys out there. At least if they're feeling like they can go, they're going to go, knowing maybe they have an off day tomorrow. So But look, can you use him today? I don't think so.
You can't use him today.
You can't use him today. So, but maybe they're also looking ahead to Fram. Not saying that they're thinking Framber Valdez is going to win this game or the Astros are going to win this game, but maybe there's a little of we want to get the win last night, right, and secure the series. We secure the series with that win last night. I was surprised. It was great to see Robert Suarez have a good outing. Didn't have any issues, and that's back to back. But I think that this is a big thing, as much as I talk about and we've talked about on the show, hey, they're going to maybe rest this guy or get this guy off his feet. I kind of wonder now if maybe that's not the case. It might be all hands on deck, man, in this mentality of how this coaching staff is using this team in terms of just foot on the gas. It's go time. Everybody needs to just pull up their big boy pants and play when they need to play.
Well, I believe you are correct. I believe you are correct in what you just said. And I heard Tony Gwynn Jr. say something very similar yesterday afternoon as I was driving home, where he said, because they were talking about Arise. And he's like, I think, this is before the lineup was out. He's like, I think Arise is going to play because I'm pretty sure everyone is going to play every day until they clinch.
If it was April, would Arise have played? Maybe he wouldn't have, right?
Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
Probably not. But he did play yesterday. Now, did he get a hit? He didn't. And there's availability and then there's performance, which is where I will say, always with the caveat, always with the pre-caveat, I think Mike Schilt has done a great job. I think he's generally done a very good job with the bullpen. He has established very consistent themes and trends so that if you are trying to pick it apart, you're doing so going like you should have been different all year, and that's not right. With all of that said, preloaded, I did disagree with this decision yesterday, and I disagreed with it the moment he came out, and it's about the old economics 101 thing of opportunity cost. Yes, you can use Robert Suarez here. He only threw 8 pitches the day before. I'm sure he told you he's fresh and ready to go.
Sure he did.
But he did allow a hit in his outing yesterday. Now, he didn't give up a run, but he did allow a hit in his outing yesterday. Also, he did get bailed out on the Jose Altuve non-call when the ball definitely hit his toe and the umpire missed it, which led Jose to took half a shoe and sock.
You're right. That was his hitter, right?
That was Robert's hitter. And I'll tell you another thing. I told you I pre-called the Hader wild pitch. I was very nervous about that matchup. When that came up, and I believe the runner was in scoring position at that point on a steal, I said, I don't like this matchup. I don't like this matchup at all. Because if
when Hader came in?
No. When Suarez was facing Altuve.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because not only is Jose Altuve one of the great line drive hitters of the last 15 years and one of the clutch players of the last 15 years and a man who rises to the moment, just like Manny Machado, somebody who meets the moment with his talent. But when we broke down Suarez a couple of days ago, I let you all know he gives up over 100-point higher average to right-handers than to left-handers. He dominates lefties, but righties get him to about a 260 clip this year. So the combination of Altuve plus Suarez on his 3rd straight day, 1 pitch only, I was not looking forward to that matchup at all. I thought it was a pretty decent chance that it doesn't go our way. And then the umpires bailed out the situation with a terrible call. I mean, obviously a really bad call. So now you don't have Suarez today, and that's the opportunity cost. Would it have been that much worse to pitch Jeremiah Estrada in that spot when you wind up using him in the 10th inning? Would it be that much worse to use Estrada in the tie game in the 9th inning? And then to the Padres, well, they're not going to have another one, but they could use Suarez in the 10th if they really, really, really wanted to get Suarez in the game. I just think the whole point of building a deep bullpen, Brian Hoeing, we haven't seen him in a few days.
I haven't seen him in,
right?
Few days, yeah.
The whole point of building a deep
Matsui?
bullpen. Is he still in the team?
He is. I see him in the clubhouse.
So he exists.
He does.
Okay.
It's a fair point. I mean, look, the right levers to pull, for a manager, there's not much. There's some gamesmanship in baseball, of course, but now that you've got a pitcher that has to come in and face 3 hitters and different kinds of rules that have been made, it takes a little bit of the gamesmanship out. But strategizing for the playoffs. And I think that probably if I was saying that to a manager right now, the manager would look at me and say, well, we're trying to get in the playoffs. We need to get in,
right.
But at the same time, the right levers to pull, and pulling them correctly in the span of this next few weeks plus into the postseason, should the Padres go deep in the postseason, that's a huge storyline. I mean, that's a huge thing. How do you deploy these guys? Do you get them more rest? Do you not? Those are things that I think like you got to have a little luck on, and you've got to have a pretty good read on, because it can go downhill fast sometimes, right? If a guy just kind of falls off a little bit.
It's a small thing. It's a decision within the margins. Just like Letters to AJ wrote today, like a lot of this stuff is decisions within the margins. And I get it. You know, we're all in this together hoping that the Padres make it all the way. So this is the kind of time where anything is perceived as criticism or negativity. And I think Mike Schilt has done a great job managing this bullpen. And
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I.
I do. And one of the reasons I think he's done a great job with this bullpen is because he's been aggressive. He's been aggressive all year. And he's been aggressive on the side of arguably overusing his best guys as opposed to underusing his best guys. So all of that is good. So when I just say I did disagree with this one, like,
I was surprised at it.
Yeah, third straight day. I just didn't feel it was necessary. I didn't feel like the juice was worth the squeeze of pitching him a third straight day, because now, okay, you have to have him take today off. Then you get the day off. So, okay, 2 days off, he's reset. But let's just say there was no off day there. Now, it would be 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5. You know, even with 1 day off, it's a big stack.
But to be fair, he's probably looking at the day off. You know what I mean? And going, you know, and then they've got a day off after the White Sox series on Monday before the 6 against LA and Arizona. So, you know, probably looking at those two, like, okay, guys are going to be able to rest themselves a little bit. And maybe we'll see today with the lineup, or even coming out of it into the White Sox games, there might be a guy that gets 2 days off in a row or not. You know, maybe on Sunday, the last Sunday game against the White Sox, there's a day off the next day before LA. So I wonder, too, if there might be a few built in there. But we're going to learn, if there's no one kind of taking any time off, we're going to learn that is kind of not on the top of the manager's mind right now.
Yeah,
you know?
No doubt. We're going to look at everything as we go, because as we said in the very first segment, man, that was a great game to lose on the second to last Tuesday of the regular season, not the first Tuesday of the playoffs. As a regular season game, we can take it, we can pick it apart, we can go, well, what about this, what about that, and do so within the safety of knowing that the Padres are in a great, great position to be in the playoffs 2 weeks from now. You lose that same game 2 Tuesdays from now, and you are on the verge of elimination.
Yeah,
You're literally on the verge of elimination.
And the right levers have been being pulled so far. You know, so I think you give him the benefit of the doubt too, a little bit there, you know, but it's going to, like I said, like it's going to be a story within the story is for all the teams, you know, how do you deploy the troops this last month?
When we come back, we've got one of our top lieutenants standing by talking about deploying the troops. We got Sammy Lev, and I can even see him in the background right now on StreamYard. It's like we've got General Patton waiting for us, the giant American flag behind him of baseballs. I always feel like I'm watching the opening scene of Patton when Sammy is on. We're talking to Sammy Lev next on the Padres Deep Dive Hour right here on The Fan. It's the Padres Deep Dive Hour. A reminder that baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile and you can get tons of benefits. Still save on every plan against AT&T and Verizon. Use their savings calculator. Find out how. Go to T-Mobile.com/switch. There he is. If you're watching YouTube, you see him right there. Our man, Sam Levitt. He has been the watcher on the wall for over 7 months of Padres baseball. And now the postseason looming, the glittering golden gates of the postseason looming in the short distance ahead of you, Sammy. But the regular season continues today and already at your post inside the Western Metals building. Sammy Levitt joining us now on Annie and Elsten. Welcome, my friend.
Yeah, I thought I would get here bright and early and be ready to go. So I'm not going to leave this seat for the next 3-4 hours. Just kidding. Came out here, got set up, already here with the 3:40 start time, and ready to go on what's shaping up to be a nice afternoon here at Petco Park. A little cloudy right now, but some blue sky up there. So obviously a good opportunity for the Padres to win a series against a really good Astros team. So looking forward to that.
Well, you were there, Sammy, for every pitch of last night's game and the wildness of it all. What was your take on it? I mean, just the fact that these two teams played each other so hard and all the weirdness with the foot and the missed calls and the reviews. And what were your big takeaways from last night's game?
From a purely entertainment standpoint and from a pure baseball fan standpoint, I thought it was a terrific game. I mean, it had everything. It had big moments. It had high drama. It had boos. It had weird moments. It had replay reviews. I mean, the whole game was encapsulated with Altuve taking off his shoe and his sock and showing it to the umpire and walking around the batter's circle with his bare foot on the dirt. Like, it was an entertaining and really good, great theater kind of baseball game last night. I know the Padres didn't win it, but I thought in the context of what they've been doing, a 4-game win streak, the fact that the Dodgers lost last night, the Diamondbacks lost last night, what I said in the opening segment post-game last night was don't lose sight of the big picture. I know you would have loved to have won this game, and you almost did. And, then you have the part of it where Kessinger comes in to play second base, and who knows if Altuve makes that play up the middle. I mean, that's a play, not the range. The range was not maybe the hardest part of that play up the middle, but if Kessinger has that even go off his mitt a few feet, the Padres may win the game. I mean, he's got to make a clean pick there, and he did. So that was like the cherry on top of the whole thing, the fact that Kessinger was playing second base only because Altuve got ejected. So, in short, I thought it was great theater. I did think it was a really entertaining, dare I say, kind of World Series-like vibe to it almost, and the crowd was into it, another sold-out crowd. Tough the Padres didn't win it, but I wasn't going to go crazy about them not winning the game last night. They're still where they want to be and have some work to do, but obviously in a good spot.
Hey, that's 100% right, Sammy. And if the Padres were in a much more precarious position, if they were in the Braves' position, if they were in the Mets' position, that would be a devastating loss. The contrast is the Padres are barreling toward the playoffs. They've got 99+% playoff odds. So this is the kind of game that you can lose 2 weeks before the playoffs as opposed to losing in game one of the playoffs. Now, that being said, the decisions on the margins are the ones where the Padres can work to improve. What were your thoughts on the choice to not have the contact play on in the 10th inning with Tyler Wade at third base?
Yeah, I was okay with it, and I know this has been a big discussion point this morning. I was okay with it. To me, that's a spot where Wade cannot get thrown out at home plate. Now, I know that the ball that Arise hit ended up being sort of a chopper where, if he gets a good secondary lead and takes off, there's probably a good chance he gets in there. It probably is a close play, but he's got a real shot rather than, let's say, if it was a hard ground ball right at Pena and he comes home, because then a contact play, I think Wade's out for sure. I understood the contact play not being on, especially with the part of the order coming up that was there with Tatis and then Profar and then Machado. I really understood it. I know with the type of ground ball pain you got in hindsight, maybe if the contact play is on there, maybe there's a better than 50-50 shot that Wade scores. I personally didn't have a problem with it because Wade can't get thrown out there. I mean, you get thrown out there, So what? You've got a runner on first base with one out. I mean, that totally changes the complexion of the inning, and you're hoping to score a couple of runs in that inning. So I really didn't have a problem with it. I know there was the ball that got away from the catcher as well.
Right.
Early. I don't know if that was after the contact play, after
it was
the
before,
first out.
Yeah, it was on the
before
walk,
that,
yeah.
right? So I know he didn't, dart home on that either. Again, if I'm Tyler Wade at third base there, the last thing I want to do is make that first out at home. So I understood it. I get where in hindsight you can look at it a little bit differently, but I did understand it. I didn't disagree with the decision not to have the contact play on and to play it a little bit more conservative, especially with the meat of the order coming up.
Sam, last night did break that streak that was going with Manny Machado driving in multiple runs and the Padres winning, but the fact is he was clutch for them once again. I know you've looked at these numbers for him. How instrumental has he been to this team that you've seen?
It's been, so good to see and fun to watch. And, I think when you think back to how we discussed Manny over the first couple of months, this was a situation where maybe if it's another player, he's not even playing until he's fully ready to go, right? I mean, he came back from the elbow surgery. He wanted to be ready on opening day. He obviously wasn't fully playing third base yet, and they had to navigate through that. He talked openly about the health and about the elbow and about it not allowing him to be where he wanted to be. And, I asked him about it the other day, and he started with health, number one. So I think that's the biggest part of it, is that he got healthy. He's still not 100%, Annie, as you asked him about the other day, but he's certainly in a better spot. So, look, it's no coincidence. He got healthier as the year went on, and this elbow, procedure, we got farther away from it. And you look at the numbers the last 3+ months now, he's been one of the best players in the National League. It has been vintage Manny Machado, and from a run-producing standpoint, I mean, there's been nobody better in the last 3 months, and he's had so many moments like he did yesterday, big home runs. I mean, there have been impactful swings. So it's the health, I think, first and foremost, but as he's discussed, look, I think there's a feeling, too, where Manny doesn't feel like he's got to carry the whole load, and that's one of the nice things about this team. There have been other guys that have contributed throughout the year, and certainly in the second half. It's not a situation, even like in 2022, when it felt like he was carrying them to the postseason, getting them there, putting the team on his back. Even though he's been so good, I think there's a real sense of this is a bit of a collective here, more so in this year than in past years. So I think it's a little bit of both those things, but obviously the health is first and foremost. I mean, he's healthier, and he got back to a place where he can be the Manny we know, which is great. He's been terrific.
Love this team. I love everything that we're seeing from this club. Got all the confidence in the world that they are barreling toward the number 4 seed, Sammy, and kind of taking a step backward and looking outward. That's the thing. Can't predict ball, right? Baseball being the crazy sport it is. Here's Arizona, the club that for a 20-game period, a truly unprecedented stretch in the history of Major League Baseball, with 2 teams in the same division, putting up a 17-3 simultaneous to one another. It felt like this was going to be a breakneck sprint where it came down to, does anyone buckle on their step or their stride down the stretch? Well, the buckling has come from Arizona. Arizona has played some good teams. They've lost those series to good teams. Now they go out and kick a game and then a second game in Colorado. And all of a sudden, the thing that seemed like an absolute inevitability, Padres Diamondbacks last weekend of the season, everything on the line, all 3 games matter. We could be looking at a spot, Sammy, where the Padres have locked up the 4, the Mets have locked up the 5, and Arizona's playing for their life in the 6, while San Diego's playing to position themselves for the next series.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things to look at in the wild card picture as a whole. And I think, number one, the Mets continue to play really well. I mean, they've won the last 2 days with no Francisco Lindor in the lineup. Their pitching has been terrific. And you look at the names in their rotation. I mean, it's Sean Manaea, who's refound himself in New York. I mean, he may make a lot of money this offseason. He has been that good.
Will make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean he's been great. I mean you've got Quintana and Severino's been great. Like they have figured it out somehow in that rotation, and the Mets continue to play well. And then you have the Braves, who have, they've just dealt with so many injuries, and you almost start to get a feeling they're 2 games out now behind New York. Like you start to wonder if they're just kind of running out of gas. Now we're a ways away, and the Mets and the Braves play a series against one another coming up next week, so that's going to be really important. But those are 2 pretty big developments, I think. The Mets continuing to play as well as they have. The Braves, I don't know if they're running out of gas or not, but it hasn't looked great the last couple of days. They blew a lead yesterday to Cincinnati. And then the Diamondbacks, you're right, not playing as well. So, I don't know. Let's assume the Padres are in that number 1 wild card spot hosting the series here. Look, I don't know who you want to face. I mean, the Diamondbacks have been there, done that. The Mets have played really, really well. I think either way, you want to host that series here. But you're right. This could end up looking quite a bit different than what we anticipated, where you kind of assumed for a while the Diamondbacks would be either the 1 or 2. Maybe they won't be. Maybe they'll be the 3. Maybe they'll be out of it, and maybe the Mets are going to be the number 2. And I also think this. We've still got 10 games left in the Padres season. 2.5 games is not insurmountable. So you got to get there first and get that 1 seed, but obviously 2.5 games up with 10 games remaining in your season, you're in a very good spot. They got to get across the finish line, and as cliche as that sounds, that's got to be their focus.
Sammy, appreciate you as always, my friend. I hope there's a great lunch waiting for you inside the press box. I hope it hits the spot. And you always hit the spot with your coverage, man. It's so comforting, if you're out and about, like I was last evening, to get in the car after a crazy game and to know that you've got us on lock with all the information, with all the great highlights. Did a great job last night, as always. And we always appreciate chatting with you, and we'll do it again next week.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sam.
Sammy Lev joining us. The General Patton of our baseball crew. Giant American flag, baseball American flag behind him. As he gets the job done once again.
It's a dangerous job sometimes for him after losses.
Yeah.
Because he has to I don't think anyone screens the calls on his end, and sometimes they are very entertaining.
Yeah.
Those calls. And it's great that people call in. He gets to hear a lot of different opinions, especially after losses.
The emotional call.
Yeah, very
call.
spur. What is that kind of phrase when it's like right after it happened, right?
Yeah,
so
it's spur of the moment.
Yes, it's very spur of the moment.
That must be a riding horses thing, right? Spur of the moment.
Sounds right.
Like you jam the spur. Oh. Sudden impetus to go when you get a spur knocked in your side. I don't know. I'm going to look it up myself. Okay.
Look it up in the break. Yes.
All right, we'll look it up in the break. But then when we come back, we've hit the midpoint of our broadcast week. It's the Wednesday, 12 o'clock Sports Fix with all the info you need from baseball, from soccer, from football, and more. Coming your way right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. We're at the exact midpoint of the work week. It is 12 o'clock on Wednesday. It's all downhill from here, gang, barreling toward the weekend. Welcome back to Annie and Elsten, hour number 3. With us as we roll from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn, Braden Soprenet, I'm Craig Elsten. We are all together in our Odyssey studios waiting for the sun to peek out. It probably will right before first pitch today, downtown 3:40 for the Padres and the Houston Astros rubber game between the Friars and the perennial ALCS competitors, the Houston Astros. We've got that and so much more for you as we present you all of the sports news of the day on The Fix. Go do that. But first, do this. Listen to the Sports Fix, starting with Annie and the latest in Big League Baseball.
Well, we will start with Baltimore, where the Orioles just announced that they have designated Craig Kimbrell for assignment.
Uh-oh.
They knew they couldn't keep him on the postseason roster. The Craig Kimbrell experiment is now over.
Done.
Ben Gamble has sustained a left fibula fracture, the Astros announced yesterday. Houston placed the outfielder on the 10-day injured list, retroactive to September 15th, and recalled catcher Cesar Salazar. Houston didn't provide a return timetable for Gamble, but there's a possibility he doesn't play again this season. He's the second Houston outfielder lost to a broken bone within the past week. Chas McCormick went on the IL with a break in his right hand on Thursday. Dalton Varsho will undergo surgery to repair a rotator cuff injury in his right shoulder. Toronto manager John Schneider said that the Jays will have a clearer timeline once Varsho completes the procedure. He didn't rule out the possibility that the rehab process carries into next year's spring training. The Guardians announced that outfielder Stephen Kwan has been placed on the 10-day injured list. They have selected the contract of Miles Straw to take his place on the active roster. Kwan hasn't played a game since September 12th. He was scratched from the lineup on September 13th, with the club describing his issue as body fatigue. It's unclear how long the club expects Kwan to be out, but it seems they want him to rest for at least a week. Royals reliever James MacArthur exited last night's game due to elbow tightness. The Royals placed MacArthur on the 15-day IL with a right elbow sprain, recalling right-hander Steven Cruz in a corresponding move. And the Padres lost to the Astros in extra innings 4-3 last night. They will play a rubber game today. First pitch is at 3:40 with Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres and Framber Valdez for Houston.
Big results yesterday in baseball and games in progress today. Here's Braden with the scoreboard.
Let's talk about last night first. Giants blanked the Orioles 10-0. Too little, too late for the San Francisco Giants. Twins of the Guardians 4-1. American League standings, especially in the wild card, is heating up, as we mentioned yesterday. Reds helping out the Padres. They beat the Braves last night 6-5. Marlins helping out the Padres. They beat the Dodgers 11-9. Nationals not helping the Padres. They lost 10-1 to the New York Mets. Padres not helping the Padres. They lost 4-3 to the Houston Astros. Other American League scores: the Tampa Bay Rays beat the Boston Red Sox 8-3. Tigers beat the Royals 3-1 in 10 innings. Tigers a game and a half out of a playoff spot in the American League wild card. A's beat the Cubs in interleague play 4-3. Phillies and Brewers in a battle of two division-leading teams. It's the Phillies 5 and the Brewers 1. Cardinals beat the Pirates last night 3-1. Rangers all over the Blue Jays 13-8. Yankees beat the Mariners 11-2. An interesting play last night. Bases loaded for the Seattle Mariners and a 3-0 count with 2 outs.
Yes.
And they decide to steal home.
That was crazy.
And they get thrown out at the plate, and that ends the inning. And Justin Turner looks into the Mariners dugout going, "What are we doing? What are we doing?"
It was a 3-ball count.
It's 3-0
Victor
count.
Yeah,
Robles
3-0 count.
Went rogue.
Bases loaded.
Yeah.
Got money on the game or something?
Oh, man.
I mean, I have no idea. That made no sense.
He did a Leroy Jenkins. Leroy
That's right.
Jenkins.
Exactly.
Just jumped in. What are you doing?
Well, tough loss for the Mariners, who are trying to battle in the American League wild card. Angels over the White Sox 5-0, and the Rockies beat up on the Diamondbacks for the second day in a row. They win 8-2 over Arizona. I'll be back with a couple of football stories in a second. Here's Craig.
Arizona can give up 8 to 11 runs to anybody. It's why we may not face them in the playoffs and why I want to face them in the playoffs, because they're going to give up 8 to 11 runs.
Yeah.
Like, their pitching staff, them in L.A., their pitching staffs are both tire fires.
Very streaky because they can put up the runs, but when they don't, forget about it, especially with a bullpen like the Padres have or whatnot, like and the pitching staff that they don't have over there at those other teams.
I'm almost, and I'm not there, but there's an inflection point next week where I will start rooting for Arizona, just to not be passed by the Mets.
Oh, because you want the Padres to face Arizona,
yes,
right?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah,
because they're hemorrhaging runs.
You got to have some good pitching. I think it's one of the biggest reasons why you can look at the Padres and feel good about their chances at things, because the vulnerabilities within their team are nowhere near what it looks like for teams like Arizona and the Dodgers and those pitching staffs.
Now on to the rest of the sports story. Got a soundbite in here, Brandon, about Braden.
Did you just call him Brandon?
I did.
Oh,
you know
my
why?
God.
Listen,
There should be something that happens when that happens.
I looked down and I saw the
shock.
word Landon, and it's a soundbite of Landon. And I started to say
Braden
Braden
and
Braden and Landon, Brandon.
You're going to have to owe him $1 every time you do that
That's
or something.
fair. That's $2 now. It's like $5 now. I think over the course
Maybe
of the
you'll
show.
wait till you get to 5.
Yeah.
I think over the course of the show, it's
Okay.
$5.
Can't wait to you should bring a burrito in tomorrow.
Okay. All right. San Diego Wave FC is in action tonight.
Why isn't this working?
You might not have known that because it's like nowhere. It's pretty hard to find unless you're just following the Wave on their socials. Nothing in the paper about it. Little hype, little promotion, because this was a match not on the regular season schedule. It's the CONCACAF W Champions Cup. And the Wave earned their way into this tournament last year by winning the NWSL Shield. So while San Diego is currently out of a playoff spot in the NWSL, they are very much in the Champions Cup. They are 1-0 in Group B in the Champions Cup, having won in Panama earlier this summer in Landon Donovan's coaching debut. So tonight, a very tricky situation for LD as the head coach of the team, because Saturday, the Wave play in Chicago against the 7th place Red Stars, a very, very important match in the regular season. But here they are playing on a Wednesday against Portland Thorns in a CONCACAF W Champions Cup match, which has no impact on the NWSL standings, but is still a cup they could win and hoist. So what do? Do you play your full-strength lineup today, or do you rotate your lineup today and leave your full-strength lineup for Saturday in Chicago? Let's hear what LD had to say yesterday at the press conference.
The good news tomorrow is it's a team in our league. So I think for all of us, going to Panama was a bit of unknown. I certainly didn't know their league or their players. I think for a lot of the players, it was new playing in Central America and then playing against a different opponent with a different style. Tomorrow, it's a team we know well. And so that will make it feel probably a little bit more like an NWSL game. The only difference is that tomorrow very much will feel like a tournament type of setting, right? And so that makes the way you approach it differently. You might take a little more chances or a little less chances based on what's happening in the game. So we'll navigate that appropriately, but I think the team's in a really good place and excited for tomorrow.
Okay, well, we'll just find out.
Yeah, it's been.
We'll find out. Well, yeah, it's been interesting, and sure enough. And we'll find out that lineup a little bit later today. Game is at 7 o'clock tonight. If you want to go to Snapdragon Stadium, I guarantee you there are some seats open. And if you went to the Padre game today at 3:40, you might be able to do the doubleheader, the old double dip, and skate on up to Snapdragon Stadium. Got another update on the battle between Jordan Chiles, the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Wow. Already we have another update?
The Swiss Federal Tribunal.
The Swiss.
And now, Netflix.
What?
Oh, no.
Netflix to the rescue.
They've entered the chat.
Now remember, Jordan Childs fought for the floor exercise bronze medal at the Paris Games. She had her routine incorrectly scored for degree of difficulty. The coach spotted the error, had it corrected, and then she won the bronze. But there was then an appeal from Romania, which said that Childs' coach didn't file their appeal within a 60-second window, and therefore it was null and void, and they stripped Childs of her medal, and they gave it to Romania's Ana Barbosu. But Netflix was in Paris filming for Simone Biles' second season of her documentary, Simone Biles Rising.
Oh, I like where this is going.
And Netflix had a camera on the coach for Jordan Childs. And they have taken it back and put it in the bay and figured the things out and done the timing. And they have video footage showing that the appeal from Childs' coach came 47 seconds into the 60-second window.
Oh, they have receipts.
They have video proof. So we should be good. And Childs should get her medal back. But have the judges at the Swiss Federal Tribunal kept their Netflix passwords safe? I mean, do they have Netflix? That's not actually part of it. But we'll find out soon. But Netflix may be running to the rescue for Jordan Childs.
The smoking gun.
Yeah. Or the smoking timer.
Yeah, the smoking timer. This is really taking on a life. Now they're going to make like a documentary when this is all over. They're going to have like first rights. They're going to be like, Jordan, we helped you get the medal back.
Yep.
Now you're going to help us make a documentary here.
All right, quickly, Woj bomb. No more Woj. Adrian Wojnarowski announced this morning his retirement from ESPN. He is no longer the NBA's #1 insider. He is now the general manager of the St. Bonaventure men's basketball program. So there you go. Stay tuned for season 3 of Woj. Top 2 seeds are locked up for the WNBA playoffs. New York Liberty are the #1 seed. They beat Washington 87-71 last night. Minnesota Lynx beat Connecticut. They have clinched the #2 seed. And briefly, some NHL news. The Dallas Stars have locked up key defenseman Esa Lindell to a new 5-year, $26.25 million contract. And good news for Florida Panthers kid. The Stanley Cup champion Panthers have agreed to a new deal to stay in Broward County through at least 2033 with a chance for more. So Florida Panthers not going anywhere. Back to Braden for the football story.
Football stories. We have 2 of them. We have one in college where the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, most notably football. Talks between Clemson, Florida State, and the ACC have ramped up in recent weeks, according to sources, on a proposal that would allow a greater share of revenue to schools based on brand valuation and television ratings, as well as potentially alter the expiration of the league's grant of rights, which currently runs through 2036, in exchange for the Tigers and Seminoles dropping their lawsuits against the conference. According to multiple sources within the league, conversations are preliminary and the sides are not close to an agreement, but the conversations represent a strong signal that Florida State and Clemson are open to remaining in the conference under more favorable financial terms. The proposal, which was formulated by Clemson and Florida State and discussed by the league's presidents during Tuesday's regularly scheduled meeting, includes additional money going to schools with better rating success in football and basketball. While the proposal has not been widely distributed or discussed among conference athletic directors, administrators from more than a half a dozen schools who spoke with ESPN said they would at least be open to some altered revenue split. In 2022-2023, the ACC distributed an average of $44.8 million per school, roughly $7 million less than the SEC. However, that difference is expected to grow to more than $30 million when accounting for the SEC's new television contract, which began this year. Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford has called for the forthcoming revenue gap at an existential threat, and he pushed for the ACC to divide revenue unequally during the league's 2023 spring meetings, asking for more money to go to schools that had success on the field as well as those that drew the highest ratings for television. League ultimately agreed to institute a new revenue-sharing policy dubbed, quote, success initiatives that would reward programs that made bowl games, the CFP or NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament with a higher share of postseason revenue, but at the time, ADs were not interested in any plan that included brand valuation or television ratings too. Very interesting. The ACC is thinking about it in order to keep Florida State and Clemson. That obviously has an impact on San Diego State because the Pac-12 is kind of relying on this thing to blow up. So Cal and Stanford come back.
Yeah, without Cal Stanford, where are they?
But if Cal and Stanford come back, do they want equal revenue as everybody else, or are they going to want more? Because their value is more than what San Diego State or one of these other teams play.
But but also for them, if the ACC thing falls apart, where else would they go?
Correct.
Other than the Pac-12. So, I mean, it feels like it would be beneficial to both of them.
I think they'd probably rather be in the Ivy League if they had the choice.
Oh, God. It's talking about travels for poor Stanford women's volleyball.
I know.
Now you're sending them to Brown and Princeton?
But they're an Ivy League school, Craig. Remember, the academics run those schools more than the athletic facilities. But it's an interesting fact. I mean, San Diego State turns down an opportunity for split share, and now it seems like everybody's got to turn to some type of split share based on television ratings. That might be rough.
That's not good for us.
No, that's not good for San Diego in general, if that seems to be the case. NFL news, two-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning, former Defensive Players of the Year Luke Kuechly and Terrell Suggs, and postseason kicking hero Adam Vinatieri are among the first-time nominees for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. Hall announced 167 modern-era candidates for the class Wednesday that included 16 players nominated for the first time, including two-time All-Pro guard Marshall Yanda. The screening committee will reduce the list of nominees to 50 players next month. Then the full 50-person selection committee will cut the list down to 25 semifinalists and then 15 finalists for the annual meeting before the Super Bowl that will produce the new class. Players must get at least 80% of votes to get in. Under the Hall of Fame's bylaws, between 3 to 5 players can get in as modern-era candidates. There will also be 3 senior candidates grouped with 1 coach and coordinator. At least 1 and no more than 3 of those finalists will get in based on voting. But some of the names that are first-time candidates: Travis Friedrich, Ryan Khalil, Joe Staley, Marshawn Lynch, and Darren Sproles, Demarius Thomas, Vernon Davis, Delaney Walker, defensive ends Antoine Bethea, Aqib Talib, and Earl Thomas. Some of the new players on the list. Makes me feel old growing up watching these guys. Now they're potential Hall of Famers. But that's a look at that, and that's it for football.
Thank you so much. You know who I hate? I hate Austin Gomber.
He just hit a home run?
Well, he just allowed a home run.
He just allowed a home run.
Austin Gomber, who shut us out every time this year, has already given up 2 runs to the Arizona Diamondbacks in the top of the first and 2 more base runners. So first inning still not over. 2-0 Arizona leading Colorado.
Also, I saw that the Yankees can clinch. Now we're in clinching postseason berth era. They can clinch today with a win over Seattle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Juan Soto hit his 40th home run of the year, 200th of his career, and it was the 30th Major League ballpark he had homered in. So he's now homered in all 30 ballparks.
Hey.
Good for you, Juan. Could have ticked that box in the Vetter Cup last year and homered up there last year. Didn't do that for us, but I'm not bitter. All right, when we come back, one story that's not in the fix, because, I mean, the story's been there multiple times in the fix. Mikey Varas, new head coach of San Diego FC. But yesterday he was introduced to the press. We'll bring you some of what he had to say and maybe a lot of why it looks like SDFC made this choice. I think that's a lot clearer after hearing his story. We'll bring that to you next. Danny and Elsten on The Fan. 1225 on the Fan. Welcome back. Listen to Sam Levitt's podcast, Inside San Diego Baseball, where Sam covers everything going on with the Padres. You can find it at 973thefansd.com or the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, we just went through all the sports news of the day. Part of the sports news of yesterday was the introduction of Mikey Varas as San Diego FC's head coach. They had a press conference at Snapdragon Stadium yesterday. San Diego FC put out some of the clips of that over the course of the night and the morning. And I thought listening to it, Annie, gave us some real insight on the why
right.
of Mikey Varas. There's a clip that we've got for you that we'll play here momentarily, and that is Mikey Varas in English talking about the challenge of being a San Diego FC head coach. He also had a long clip that they put out in Spanish because Mikey Varas is bilingual. His mother is American. His father is Chilean. And so he grew up in a bilingual household, and his father would take him down as a kid to Chilean minor league soccer matches. And he saw the passion of the fans, and it's where he developed his love for football. I have to tell you about that clip because we're not going to play it because it's in Spanish. Right. But bilingual, binational, and definitely with an eye looking to the south, San Diego FC. But here's their new head coach, their first ever head coach, Mikey Varas, on some of his emotions on taking this job.
What excites me most is the San Diego is a special place. I think anybody who's spent any time in any of the 18 communities understands what I mean when I say that. And I met my wife in San Diego. I've met some of the best friends of my entire life in San Diego. Some of them were born and raised in San Diego, but many were not. This place draws a certain type of energy and a certain type of humanity to it. And that first and foremost excites me because I believe in community. I believe in where you live and with who you live really, really matters. The second thing that excites me is the project. The project is greater than just a sport. It's about impacting not only the players and the people involved, the fans, but the entire community, and ultimately trying to impact humanity in a really positive way.
So, I mean, great quote right there. And today they had a shot of him inside the under construction facilities that they're building down at Singing Hills on the Saquon property. And that's what he's talking about when he talks about the vision for the future, is the idea of creating an academy here in San Diego, but that is allowed territorially to recruit to Mexico, to bring across the border some of Mexico's best youth talent, to train them and have them live and learn here in San Diego, and then to be, as San Diego FC Academy players, Right to Dream Academy players, available to transition and to be, have their contracts purchased by San Diego FC, eventually creating a youth to academy, to development, to the big leagues pipeline that is sustainable and perpetual for San Diego FC. So, I mean, brilliant. That's their game plan. We'll see how it plays out. It'll take 15 years to find out.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because he's not been a head coach.
No.
Right? This is a new position for him. But I saw that they used the word a lot, alignment, yesterday. They were all very in line within the sporting director and Tom Penn in terms of what that vision is. But, look, he gets to build it from the ground up, right? Like it's a whole new undertaking, and you really get to put your stamp on it, and should be pretty exciting. And also, it's a risk no matter what, right?
And while he hasn't been an MLS head coach, and he was only the interim head coach of the U.S. men's national team, for a couple of matches here in between Berhalter and Pochettino, He has been the academy director at Sacramento Republic. Then he went to become the academy director for Dallas FC MLS and moved up from that to become the assistant coach for Dallas MLS. And then he was the head coach for the under-20 men's national team. So what he's used to is working with a very, very young roster, and it'll be interesting because obviously Chucky Lozano is there. They've hired a couple of them Danish veterans that we had on the show a few weeks ago, Ingvartsen and I'm sorry, I forgot the other guy's name, but it's going to eventually be a very young team. I don't know if the first team, if Team 1 for San Diego FC is going to be the youngest team in the league. But the idea is that like maybe Team 8, Team 9 is one of the youngest teams in the league while also having great success.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I mean, when you have young players like that and you have a vision and you're able to kind of create the culture and create the style of play that you want your team to have, and then hopefully that continues on from year to year, and then through their pipeline like you're talking about, you really get to make that your identity, right? So I think that's the goal here. But it's certainly going to take a lot of work to get there, and it takes time. I think something like this takes time. And then look, they're going to have to get out there and kind of do well in the midst of that.
Yeah. And you know, San Diego FC this year, they're doing a lot of groundwork here in the community. It's not by accident that Mikey Varas dropped the 18 communities of San Diego. Again, there's literally no one in San Diego that refers to the 18 communities of San Diego.
I don't even know all 18 communities
unless
of San
you are
Diego.
within the borders of San Diego FC's staff. And then everybody there talks about the 18 communities of San Diego. And no one in San Diego, I've lived here since 1990. No one talks about it. Like
there's East County, South County,
the 18, the
Poway.
proud, La Mesa, Lemon Grove, et cetera, et cetera. Nonetheless, they are working on stitching that community together here in San Diego. But I do find it really interesting, Annie, how much of their emphasis appears to really be south of the border. How much, even the clip we just played, if you were watching on YouTube, they've got the Spanish translation underneath in subtitles. It really feels like they know a large part of their nut's going to be made south of the border, Tijuana and beyond.
I think it's going to be huge. I mean, you have the ability to recruit there, to get interest there, to draw fan interest there, to unite kind of the two cross-border communities. There's a lot of opportunity there, and I think that's a big reason why San Diego was so tempting for MLS, and the ability to jump on that right away and to make that part of SDFC was always part of their plan. And then to have the Right to Dream Academy here, I mean, not every team has that, right? I mean, this is something that's unique to San Diego. So that's another incentive for them in terms of how they're going to build this thing. But yeah, I think that's going to be a huge part of what they do is in Mexico.
It's just really interesting to see how it plays out. And just the more I see, and obviously Lozano being a hiring, there was a lot of intentionality behind getting a Mexican national team star, even if he's not currently being selected for La Selección Nacional de Mexico. Nonetheless, he's a star. He's well known. He's got a high ID name association value. But how does it all play out as we go forward? Keeping our eye on it. Another edition of MLS 101 next week here on the show.
They're in. We're already in September. I mean, their first game, their first match is going to be what? Spring of next year?
February,
winter. Okay,
yeah.
Well, I mean, this is coming. The train's coming down the tracks.
It really is. I mean, I think it's either December or January when they have the super draft. San Diego FC will have the number 1 pick in the draft as an expansion team, and then right on the heels of that will be expansion, who's protected, who's not protected. They'll have a roster within 3-4 months. We'll have an actual team. Yeah. And then we'll really get into it. All right, there's the latest on San Diego FC and Mikey Varas. Welcome to San Diego, Mikey Varas. When we come back, it's time for today's episode of Silly Games, where Monday through Friday we give you a chance, one time per show, to qualify for our end of the month grand prize drawing. This month, it's a 2-night stay at Wynn or Encore Las Vegas and 2 tickets to see Awakening, the thrilling spectacle at Wynn Las Vegas. So we're looking for one contestant now to join us and play Fast Money, the bonus round from the Family Feud game show, where you will take on either Annie or myself, dealer's choice, to answer 5 questions in 60 seconds looking for the most popular answer. Our number is 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Give us a ring during the break. Braden will get you screened up, and we will play Fast Money when we come back. Annie and Elsten until 2 o'clock on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Awakening is the thrilling spectacle at Wynn Las Vegas, dazzling audiences with soaring aerialists, bounding acrobats, high-energy choreography, and 5 golden rings. At the heart of this compelling story...
It's too early for that. It's not even Halloween yet. Come on.
Is it too early?
8
Hey,
maids of
by the
milking.
way, one of the studios down, like 3 doors down.
Yeah.
That'd be Kason. That's a good band,
Which
by the way.
one?
That'd be Kason's got all that.
Kason, they put some Halloween decorations up.
Oh, did they?
Oh, outside the door.
Spooky.
Does Kixie still have
Inside.
their Christmas stuff up? Is that a Christmas tree I'm
It
seeing
is a
through there?
Christmas
Yeah,
tree.
I think
You just have to
Kixie's...
light it up when it gets closer.
If it's never down. It's,
Well, you guys will-
Totally interrupted your read, so
It's
sorry
quite
about
all right.
that.
Well, anyways, all this great stuff happens in Awakening in front of an immersive theater. Tickets are on sale now. Awakening.com.
You want to see Christmas decorations? Wait until...
There's a Christmas tree behind you.
Yeah, there is. That's because the fan... That's because the fan... we have the worst Christmas decorations, and Kixie just... I'm telling you right now, you're going to walk by Kixie during the holidays, you're going to be like, this is ridiculous. This is just over the top.
I can't wait.
Ridiculous. But they are the Christmas music station, so
Oh, well,
it
there you
makes
go.
sense. As soon as December rolls around, Kixie plays Christmas music.
Yes.
So you have to.
Kason's decking it out, though, for Halloween. I've already seen that.
Yeah.
What do we have?
They got witches and
We barely
brews.
have any decorations.
We have a
in here
roach.
ever. We have the roach.
We have a roach with wheels.
That was like a Charlie Brown moment.
Roach wagon.
I got a Kit Kat.
Basically.
I got a Reese's. I got a rock.
I got a rock.
That's right. Kixie, we have Christmas trees. Kason, we got spooky things.
We have a
roach.
lineup,
Oh,
which we can get to next
we can
hour.
get to shortly because right now we've got to get to silly games, and today's silly game is Fast Money. It's the very popular bonus round from the Family Feud game show. Braden Soprenet has interviewed one of the previous Annie and Elsten studio audiences to get their most popular answers to 5 burning questions, and we're about to find out who does a better job of syncing up with that audience. Dan in Encinitas is today's contestant on Fast Money. Hi, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Great, Dan.
We're doing well. It's good to have you here, man. Before we play, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I just got off work. I listen to you guys every day, and I enjoy your and everything.
No.
Oh, no, Dan.
Dan,
You've developed a buffer.
Dan, you were coming in and out on us right there. Speak to us again, please, so I know that you're there. He gone.
But thanks for the kind words about listening.
Dan. Thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate you.
Alex and Cardiff, come on down.
But one man's loss is another man's gain. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Doing great.
Uh-oh.
In San Diego.
Okay, it's good to have you there. We're hoping your line clicks in. Dan, call in another time. You'll be first in line the next time you call. All right, Alex, it's time to play Fast Money, man. You have one decision to make. Would you like to take on Craig or Annie?
I'll go with you, Craig. This time. Next time I'll do Annie if I have another opportunity.
Fair enough.
about
All
that?
right, so I'm about to leave the studio. And then Braden, our resident Ray Combs, is standing by with the 5 questions. You're going to look for the most popular answer. When I come back in, I get the same questions. I don't know what you said, but I can't repeat your answers. And then we'll add up the scores at the end. Sound good? Good luck to you, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks.
All right. See you.
All right, put them in on the clock. Annie will get the whiteboard to take notes
Oh, hang on.
of the answers. Craig's now doing it.
Okay. I got the whiteboard. Got
All
the
right.
whiteboard. Thank
Here
you,
we
thank
go.
you,
We're
thank you.
dialed in, ready to rock and roll. All right, Alex, you got 1 minute to answer these questions. Any of them stump you, want to get back? If we still have time, we can go back.
Go,
just say
Alex.
pass, and we will get to that question in just a little bit. Clock will start after I ask you question number 1. Name a type of business people call where they expect to be put on hold.
Pass.
Pass. All right. Name a product that might be disposable.
Pass.
Name something that children have difficulty learning to use.
I'm going to pass too. I'm just thinking about it some more. Keep on going.
Name a subject people know lots of trivia about.
Movies.
Name something you
Okay,
see in a mansion.
Statue.
Statue.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. Name a type of business people call where they expect to be put on hold.
Airplane reservation. Flying.
All right. Name a product that might be disposable.
Batteries. Or camera. No, camera. I'm going to go camera.
Camera.
Okay.
That's a better
Yeah.
answer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Name something that children have difficulty learning to use. Need an answer.
Come on, Alex. You got this.
The TV remote.
The TV
All right,
remote.
TV
I like
remote.
that. Very specific.
We can now bring in Craig.
Okay.
There's some difficult questions.
Yeah,
today.
they were. Could go a number of ways, Braden.
Yes.
With these questions.
All right, Craig.
All right.
A little difficult today.
Oy vey.
Alex passed on the entire first round and then had to come back to it. So
Holy cannoli.
hopefully get your thinking cap on, not just your San Diego FC hat on.
Well, hopefully they're one and the same.
That's right. All right, 1 minute on the clock starts as soon as I ask you this question or name something. Name a type of business people call where they expect to be put on hold.
Insurance company.
That's good. Name a product that might be disposable.
A product that might be disposable. Like cans? Does that?
Cans will work. Name something that children have difficulty learning to use.
Something that children have difficulty learning to use. How about a bicycle? So, you got to learn how to ride a bike.
Bicycle. That's a
Okay.
good answer. That's somebody that has had to teach a child a couple things or two. Name a subject people know lots of trivia about.
Sports.
Sports. That's a great answer.
Yes.
Name something you see in a mansion.
A chandelier.
Chandelier. That's great.
I like your chandelier.
What
All
a
right.
beautiful chandelier.
Answer time.
Okay.
The Daily Double. Just kidding. Wrong game show. All right. Question number 1. Name a type of business people call where they expect to be put on hold. Alex said airplane travel.
Sure, that's a good one.
No.
Sorry, Alex.
I think it's a good answer.
I think it's a good answer as
So do
well.
I.
Craig said insurance company. Fourth answer, 12 points.
Okay, all right.
Number 1 answer was doctor's office.
Yeah, I guess.
Phone company, bank, insurance company, department store, restaurant, electric/power company, credit card company.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
restaurant, you better not be on hold too long or else you're not coming.
Oh, so I'm going to the next place.
Going to a different spot.
Exactly.
Name a product that might be disposable. Alex said camera. Disposable camera.
Okay.
Fourth best answer, 4 points.
All right, you're on the board, Alex.
Craig said cans. Fifth answer, also 4 points.
Jeez. All right.
It's a wash. Number one answer was
scoring game.
Number 1 answer was diapers.
Ooh.
Followed by
yeah.
paper products / baby
Very.
wipes, razors, camera, cans, plastic.
Okay.
Name something that children have difficulty learning to use. Alex said the TV remote.
No, they're really good at that.
No, yeah.
It turns out they're really, really good at that.
They could figure that out. 0. Craig said a bicycle. Correct. 22 points. Third answer.
There you go.
Number 1 answer was toilet. Second answer was eating utensils.
Jeez.
Potty training your child.
Good point.
That
yeah,
makes sense.
good point.
Name a subject people know lots of trivia about. Alex went with movies.
Good answer.
Good answer.
We're going to give him entertainment for that. That's tied for the number 1 answer with 30 points.
Good,
Okay.
good.
The other number 1 answer was sports. Sports.
Also a good answer.
Good answer. History, politics, music, science, and literature. Rounded up the rest.
Wait, how many?
30 each.
30. Oh, 30 for sports?
30
Sports and 30 for entertainment.
All right. I'm a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
Name something you see in a mansion. Alex said a statue.
Wow.
We'll give them antiques. 6?
Yeah, well, most statues are antique. Yeah, why not?
6.
Why not?
Maybe. Craig went with a chandelier. Number 1 answer. 25
Number one
points for the
answer.
chandelier.
The chandelier. I'm swinging from the chandelier as champion here.
I'm not doing the math, but you won.
Yeah, I won.
Yeah.
Yes,
I won.
Craig won
Oh
for
my
sure.
God, that was too much fun. Thank you.
Alex, good
Thanks,
stuff,
Alex.
brother.
Call back
Appreciate you,
again.
man.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, it was.
That was not anybody knows. I can tell you that.
They were not super obvious on this one.
No.
Okay, LSN just had the other one I thought would be up there, which is a butler.
A butler. The
butler.
answers were chandelier, paintings, staircase, antiques, beautiful furniture.
Beautiful. Not as opposed to ugly furniture.
Right.
Yeah, that you would not. They would see in our common folk house. And then number 6 was servants. So that would have been.
Okay, so that would have been the butler, yeah. But chandelier.
I can't believe chandelier was the number one answer.
Swinging on the chandelier today, baby.
Are you see ya?
That's what I'm doing. That's me. Just imagine that. That's me in my mind right now. Swinging on the chandelier in the mansion, going, woo, fast money, champion today.
Disposable products were kind of hard.
Yeah, that's it.
Disposable camera, I think, should have been more. Diapers, really?
Well, I mean, it's a great answer if you've got a 0, 1, or 2-year-old.
Right.
Then it's going to be front of mind because you're disposing of those diapers
all the time.
But you know what happens? Everybody memory holes that because it's unpleasant.
Yes.
Yes, you would like to get out of that phase.
You don't like to remember changing your kid's diapers. Now, will you hold it over his head his or her head at some point in their life?
Hopefully not literally.
Not literally, but yes, you will. I remember when I was changing your diapers, boy, and now you're talking to me like this. But we all kind of automatically memory hold because what do you want to remember about those inglorious days? Yes. Okay, another great episode of Fast Money. Tomorrow, Mind the Gap. Friday, Anybody Knows.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Adam will host that.
That is correct, because you will be on a jet plane to
Grand Forks.
Grand Forks. Grand Forks does have a international airport.
Okay. Do they have a Topgolf?
I wonder. No, they don't.
They don't have a Topgolf?
Everybody's got a Topgolf but us, apparently.
Do they have a White Castle?
I don't know.
They might have a White Castle.
All I know is the hotel is apparently walking distance to the stadium because we'll be walking.
They definitely have an Applebee's.
I'm sure they do. I saw a Subway on a map.
Yeah, guarantee.
For East Grand Forks, which would be in Minnesota.
You'll be eating good in the neighborhood.
That's right.
When you are in Grand Forks.
I'm just glad that they have their own airport that we can fly to and from, which is down the street from the stadium. So I don't have to get home at 3 a.m. like I used to in college athletics.
You know what's the problem when you order dinner where you're going?
They run out of silverware?
The forks are too big.
They're too big. They're grand.
They're grand.
They're fancy forks. Can I have some regular cutlery, please?
Giant trident-sized fork stuck into it.
Can we stop with the golden forks? No,
Here at Grand Forks, all our forks are a minimum of 2 feet long.
Hey, what can you find at a Grand Forks mansion? Golden forks.
Yeah.
Golden forks, of course.
Of course.
Like there's a town
They're
square,
grand.
and there's just a big,
just a fork. Just a big old fork.
That's right.
two because it's Grand Forks, not Grand Fork. So 2 of them crossed. It's what the city guard carries as well.
Depart for Alara Stadium at 10 o'clock. Arrive at Alara Stadium 10:04.
Are they going to gather everyone on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Like
it doesn't say bus. I mean,
all together now. Yeah. It's walk-in procession.
Well, that will be fun.
That's Braden's weekend and a preview of Monday's What's Good. Except you won't be here.
You'll be
on
there. After Thursday. I will miss Friday and then all of next week to be with the afternoon show. I'll see you in passing, and then I won't be back on the Andy and Elsten show until the following Monday.
Until
playoff time.
Right.
After I get it back from Des Moines, Iowa.
So it means Adam's football segment on Friday.
Why do I feel like that's going to be an Atlanta Falcons segment?
Yeah, Adam's football segment coming up.
Falcons segment.
Adam
Georgia
is the
Bulldogs.
MC of our games. Adam, that's a lot of responsibility, man.
Maybe we give Adam the easy games next week so he doesn't have to
I think Adam should. I think you should try to take down Adam in one of these games.
Well, that could happen too.
I think it's a good one.
That absolutely could happen. We're going to take down hour number 4 of the show. We're going to reset everything for the Padres next. Back for the final hour of the program, and Padres baseball inching ever closer. Pre-game shows just an hour and 40 minutes away. First pitch, 2 hours and 40 minutes away right here on the Fan. Padres and Astros. This is going to be a fun one. Framber Valdez for the Stros, Dylan Cease for the Padres. Here we've got our regular crew, Annie Heilbrunn, Craig Elsten, Braden Suprenant, all together with you in our Odyssey studios. Roll until 2 when Matt Scraby and Tony Gwynn Jr. will check in for just a half-hour program. And then it's Sammy Levitt, who was already on the show with us earlier today. Annie, this is rubber match.
Would you like the lineup?
I would love the lineup.
Okay.
Would love it.
Please let us know. Against left-hander Framber Valdez.
Yes. Well, leading off today, Jurickson Profar.
Oh.
Wow.
No Luis Arraez in the lineup today.
Jurickson must have been extra angry last night.
Yes.
He goes
Leave
Glaring
me
at
off.
the umpires.
Leave me off,
Yeah.
Shilty.
goes into Schultz's office. You better bat me leadoff tomorrow. I'm upset.
Fernando Tatis Jr. hitting second. He will be your DH today.
Oh,
Yeah. Wait for it. Manny Machado hitting third. Donovan Solano, he's at first base. Cleanup. Yes, cleanup.
Wow.
Jackson Merrill in the 5 spot. Xander Bogaerts, of course, at shortstop, hitting 6th. Jake Cronenworth hitting 7th. Elias Diaz is your catcher, and making a start in right field, Brandon Lockridge.
Oh, the Lockridge era begins.
Kind of figured he'd probably be starting in place of Tatis.
Might as well give him a try.
Yeah.
Why not?
And you have Tatis, who is still dealing with the effects of that stress reaction, off his feet for like a half day, right? He'll hit, but he won't play in the field, and then he'll get tomorrow off, and then you'll have Luis Arraez getting 2 days off.
As Annie said all year, he's on the team. Might as well play. Got to play him.
Yeah.
Lockridge.
Hey, we talked about it on Monday. I truly, in fact, AJ Cassavell wrote about it in his last newsletter. Like, he thinks Lockridge is going to make the postseason roster.
I saw Dennis write the same thing, that he's contending, like over Mason McCoy and maybe even Tyler Wade. I don't know.
Well,
Valuing the speed and the defense that he has. Now, my thing would be Tyler Wade has experience, and to me, you got to value that. You got to value experience. Maybe not over, but it's got to be put into the recipe as you're figuring things out.
It's great having a fast pinch runner.
It is.
Like Jorge Mateo when he was on the playoff team in 2020.
And that's Lockridge.
It's a legit asset to have if you can afford to have it on your bench.
Tyler Wade is also a pinch runner who has speed. That speed did not come into play last night in the 10th inning when he was brought in as the pinch runner, specifically to be fast, then advanced to third base in a wild pitch, and then stayed at third base on another wild pitch and on a ground ball up the middle when the contact play wasn't called. That was part of a wildly entertaining game last night that not only felt like a playoff game, but it felt like a World Series game. It felt like a classic. It felt like one of those ones that you would talk about for years and that you would remember specific moments, like Manny Machado throwing his bat when a 3-0 pitch was 2 balls outside of the zone, being told to get back in there, and then throwing his bat again on a pitch that was a lot closer, but still right on the corner, and get back in there. And he's like, okay, you really want me to get back in there, huh? Bomb. Blasted that ball to smithereens.
Totally had the feel of it, too. You could feel that mounting as Manny kind of was shaking his head like, okay. And that is something that Manny said has changed about him. He doesn't let one of those bad calls ruin his plate appearance, and he's able to capitalize yesterday. He said the umpire apologized to him afterwards for the first strike call that was not a strike, and Manny said, no worries, thank you. I got to add another home run to my tally. Now I lead the franchise in 165 home runs. And it was kind of cool. Nate Colbert's wife was there yesterday. They did a pregame ceremony honoring Manny Machado for breaking that franchise home run record. And so she was there watching and saw him tack another one onto the board, which was fun. We didn't even get to Michael King, but before we even hit on any of that, how about the delay while they checked the rules? They had to check the rules for Hader because they messed it up.
The umps were
The
awful.
umps were having a hard time.
Awful. They blew it.
like a 10-minute delay because Hader had stepped off. He used one of his disengagements. He said after the game, he saw the clock winding down, wanted to give himself a little bit of a breather. With a runner on, he's able to use that. Tatis was at third. And he's like, I think the umps forgot that there was like a guy on base, and because you can't use them before your inning starts, like if there's no player on base or anything like that. So, but yeah, it was a weird umpire game, and then of course Jose Altuve taking off his shoe, and there's a lot happening.
We've seen some really poorly umpired games in the last week of Padres baseball. The Laz Diaz game where he was missing everything during the road trip was another one, which serves as a little bit of a reminder. And you may think that this sounds unfair. I actually think I'm kind of being fair to the umpiring community. Remember, these guys have been out there every day. They don't have any home games. They don't have homestands and road trips. They're on a 7-month road trip from spring training through the end of the big league regular season, at which point they have their own playoffs because the best graded umpires move on to manage to officiate postseason games, while all the other ones are done for the year. And you know what? I think we've been seeing the last couple weeks some of the umps that are done for the year and that are playing out the string. And just like a last place team loses focus during the last few weeks of a year when they're just playing out the string, I think some of these umps are playing out the string and losing their focus.
I mean, it's true. How many innings have you seen by this point? How much bad baseball have you seen? How much good baseball? You know, it definitely wears you down, the sport of baseball, no matter what part you're in, whether that's behind the scenes, on the field, umpiring. It's a grind, no doubt about it. So that's certainly could be the case for them. They're just kind of feeling the effects of a long season. You know what? I appreciate that they took the time to do a rules check. I think that that's what you got to do in that situation and make sure you get it right, you know? So whenever they do that, I think that's fine. Hey, make sure you get it right. That's the most important thing.
Well, Josh Hader would have preferred they did it a little bit more timely fashion.
And then Mike Schilt walks out. He kind of ices the kicker. He's like, well, let me just get a clarification. By that point, Hader's already standing there for like 10 minutes. He can't throw any warm-up pitches. And then he just spikes one into the dirt. Hey. All right.
Definitely my favorite individual moment in that game last night. That and the Manny homer were both brilliant, but that was the one because he comes into all the boos and then he immediately blows the save. He blows the save on his first pitch while pitching it. Now, he also
came back
pitched
out
the ninth, did great. I believe he got the win in the game.
I think so.
Right, because he was the pitcher of record in the bottom of the ninth, and then they took the lead in the top of the 10th. So yeah. So he's the he got the win last night. So congratulations, Josh Hader. And afterwards, I think we've been pretty balanced on Josh Hader and presented his side of the story, right? And his side of the story is now very well documented. He got dicked over 4 years ago in arbitration with the Brewers. He had his usage patterns held against him when he was doing everything he could, pitching the seventh and the eighth, coming in for 5-out saves. And as a result, he and his agent got together and said, the only thing that matters is saves, and I don't need to do any of this extra stuff because I'm not getting paid for it. It's not going to be part of my valuation when it comes time for free agency. So he set up the Hader house rules for his time in San Diego.
Before he got traded.
That's true.
It's an important point. The Hader house, that was already all in effect with the Brewers. And Hader has said, look, and from what I've understood too, like it was very clear before he was traded what he was willing to do or not do. So you gotta think about that too. Like if you're bringing someone in and you're expecting them to change, and I know I get it. Believe me, I think that the clubhouse got worn down by the end of it too. I think the other pitchers kind of looked at him like, hey, come on, we understand that you're trying to get your bag. We respect that, but we need you a little bit right here. So I think by the end of it all, there would have been a preference for him to do a little more than he was doing. But on the flip side of that, there was an understanding before he was moved of what he was going to do and not do. So at that point, if you're bringing him on board, you're absorbing that risk. You're absorbing what's coming with him.
Correct. And in any situation, just like think about it if you sign a deal with a contractor to work on your home, and he says, I'm going to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday.
And not a second more.
And then it's 4:58 on Friday, and there's something that's not done to your satisfaction, and 5 hits, and he packs up the tool bag and leaves. well, yeah, he didn't do what you wanted, but he also did what you paid him to do.
He put his expectations out there and he met them. And you knew his expectations? Right, exactly. That's what makes it a little tricky. Is it palatable? Is it pleasant? No. But
No.
it is what was laid down.
So in fairness, right? In fairness, we say there's nothing wrong with Josh Hader having a preset limitation that he communicated clearly to the club and that the club decided to abide by, and then they abide by that. That's normal. It's okay to also not have liked it.
Right, yeah.
It's okay to also look at it and say, you're not exactly a team guy. You're not team first, you're me first. And he's still that way in Houston because he didn't start sacrificing until they gave him the money. And now he comes in for a 4-out save. So, of course, he comes running in with 2 outs in the 8th, and Petco Park boos his butt. And, I mean, what do you expect? What do you expect? Of course, he did expect it. He expected it. He knew when he was interviewed by Jeff Sanders the day before. He knew he was going to get booed if and when he came in. The only thing I really take umbrage with, and it's just a small thing, athletes talk after games. There's emotions, there's, et cetera. But he said... he said, I love pitching here. I love the park. I love the fans. I love the booze. Living rent-free is good. Those were his exact words. Living rent-free is good. You're not rent-free in our heads, dude. Like, we're not pining for you. We're not looking at you as the one that got away. You're not rent-free in our heads. You got paid for that spot in our heads.
Look, I thought those comments after the game, it's an awkward exchange too. It's like, but he could have also just said, hey, great to be here. I love Petco Park, and left it at that. Right. So I get it. I get where it's kind of like, okay, why you got to take it that extra step. But I don't know. These guys are competitive. They like to feel like they have any chip on their shoulder that they can get. I agree. I don't think that San Diego is, really, I don't think the phrase kind of worked in that situation.
Yeah. Rent free.
but hey, whatever. I think it's a question that I think he's going to get throughout his career, and he did get throughout his time starting there with the Astros too. Of like, what kind of pitcher are you going to be? Is that going to follow you around? Kind of the house rules, and like you said, look, he got paid, and he's not really adhering to those like he did with San Diego. But it was a time, I think, Josh Hader was very helpful for a lot. I mean, Josh Hader was a huge part of the win against the Dodgers. Josh Hader did quite a bit to help this team win and go into the playoffs, and he was a very good closer. I mean, he was one of the best closers, if not the best, last year in the league, right?
He was one of them. I don't know if he was the very best.
I don't think he was the very best.
I don't think he was the very best. But, I mean, he was good, but also he was good in part because he was so limited. I mean, just yesterday, we talked about it in the deep dive. Just yesterday, Robert Suarez pitched for a third consecutive day. Mm-hmm. That was off the table for Josh Hader, to the point that if he pitched 2 days in a row, he asked for 2 days off after 2 days in a row.
Maybe San Diego is living in Josh Hader's head rent-free.
I couldn't agree more. I think it was exactly reversed.
I will say that, because you're right, Jeff Sanders did a piece on him, and it's in the UT, it's on the website, but I do appreciate, and I just say this just as someone who talks to a lot of players, that he stood in front of his locker and he answered all the questions. Yeah. And he also mentioned that he had been looking, I guess there had been talks about a possible contract coming into last year's season, and he didn't get it, and I'm sure a little salty about that. Well, hey, that happens, right? I mean, lots of players don't get the contract that they want at the time that they want it. However, look, we've been watching a closer this year, and he has already been paid his $80 million, I think, that he got from the Padres. I think that number's right.
No,
right?
It's less than that. Less than that. He's getting $10 million a year. I think it was 36 over 3. Yeah, I'll look it up for you.
Okay, thanks. And he's really shown, and look, even Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott's a different example. I think it's even more applicable because Tanner Scott is a free agent after this year. And Tanner Scott is like, use me however you want.
Right.
Use me. I want to pitch. Use my arm. I'm here for you. So of course, many different ways that you can go about this sort of thing. That was what Josh Hader chose to do. He did get paid for it, but it is something that kind of has followed him around.
5 years, $46 million. Robert Suarez does have an opt-out.
Yeah, not 80.
Has an opt-out after next year, by the way, as well. He got $10 million this year. He'll get $10 million next year. And then he has an opt-out before the final 2 years of the contract, which I would say currently and without an injury, he'd be 100% to opt out. Now, if he got hurt next year or something untoward happened, that's the type of reverse risk contract that A.J. Preller gives out, where it's great for the player because if they succeed, they get out. And if they don't succeed, they've got guaranteed money.
And it also kind of shows you how terrible arbitration can be. Josh Hader was scarred from arbitration. Corbin Burns went through the same thing with the Brewers, and they can swap stories. I mean, it's one of the reasons why the Padres not going through arbitration. That is a gold star on their front office, because they are able to make these deals with the players that the players feel are fair and the team feels is fair without going to arbitration, where you have to air the player's dirty laundry that you still want back on your team, but you're going to use everything you can against him so you don't have to pay him an extra $500,000 or an extra $1 million or whatever that number is. So it really, when you get scarred and burned in arbitration, I'm not defending Josh, but I'm saying like that is the reason he is the way he is, because he went through where he was using his arm and doing everything the team needed, and they used it against him in arbitration.
When we come back, more Padres discussion, including taking a closer look at the two starting pitchers on the mound today, and just how good Fernando Tatis Jr. has been since his comeback. You might be surprised how good he's actually been since he's returned from injury. We're going to get into both of those things. Ask us anything before we get out of here. Annie and Elsten working toward Padres baseball at 3:40 on San Diego's #1 sports station. I tried to say two things at once.
I feel that.
Just like I tried to say,
I live in that world.
Braden, here's my Landon, and it came out Brandon.
This is living rent-free in your head.
Yes. Properly used right there. Annie using it right. Josh Hader not using it right. Annie and Elsten, 97.3, The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Indeed. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from your Indeed dashboard. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit. Annie and Elsten back here with you. We go till 2, half-hour show for Scrabes and company. Chris Ello on a cruise. He's just cruising.
I don't think you get internet on the cruise, right? Like maybe you could pay for it.
I'm sure you have it now.
You've got to have internet
okay.
now.
Was that like back in the day?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It probably cost a lot of money though. So
I'm
sure it costs something.
I haven't been on a cruise since 4th grade, but I mean now, like, if you are like a frequent flyer for like most of these airlines, they give you internet for free sometimes.
yeah.
I mean, so I can imagine that's probably.
Do you think he's paying attention, or do you think he's just gonna, when the cruise ends, he's gonna look and see where are the Padres? What's their fate?
If you're on a vacation from work and your work is watching the Padres, and he's a fan of a different team, would you want to like separate yourself from the?
Think he's more locked in on this Arizona-Colorado game today?
I don't think he's locked in on anything. I think he's locked into the Dolphins.
That's a good question.
If he's going to be locked into a sport on this cruise, it's probably going to be the Dolphins.
Well, my guess is that he has internet and is following everything.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
I think that he is up to date day by day by day on every single thing.
He's going to be like laying by the pool or at like a pool bar or something, and he's going to turn to the person next to him and he's going to be like, those Padres. So,
How about them Padres?
Yeah, something about Luis Ariz.
Do we know where he's going? Which cruise?
Yes.
Like, is he going to Mexico or is he going to the Caribbean?
Something about, I don't know. I think it's far out. I think it's like Greece or something. I think it's like I might be making that. I think it's European, but I might be making a
European cruise
in my head.
Is that warm this time
European
of year?
cruise.
Depends where you go. Depends where you go.
Mediterranean, I would imagine.
Mediterranean.
Should be nice.
I don't think he's taking a Nordic cruise right now, although maybe he is.
What if he just stays in his room the whole time? Just
like
comes out for meals. I just come out for meals.
Yeah, do we think Ello's a vacation guy that goes out and does things, or just like?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like Lori is setting the entire itinerary.
I think that's why he will do things, because she'll be like, let's go here, let's go, we're leaving to this, and he'll be like,
well, they did ask him on the round table, you're going on a cruise right now, and he was like, it's a long story. Yeah. And I was like,
he was kind of nervous about it, honestly. I think leaving at this point, not knowing what's going on with the Padres, and
I don't know if Tyler's telling the truth in the chat saying he's cruising to the North Pole, but
that's kind of cool. But
I think Chris is in charge of the naughty list every year.
Claus.
Is he Krampus?
He's Krampus.
Where's the? I can't find the. Quinn and Chris always have like the dolphin sounder.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Enough about Chris.
Everybody
hates Chris.
We digress. We love Chris.
I hope he has a great and I hope he has a great vacation.
Correct.
And comes back and is like, he's gonna be raring to go for the postseason run.
Yeah,
that's what Padres should be in.
That's why I say, like, I don't want him to be paying attention to what they're going on. Relax, just chill. Just enjoy your vacation, because we're gonna need a bullpen guy coming in to help us out when we get to postseason play.
But also
need a veteran coming off the bench.
Fresh eyes,
Chris.
fresh legs. He's gonna have fresh legs.
Fresh legs.
We clinch while he's away. That means any playoff losses on him, because he wasn't here. So it's good to know.
Put that little hex right on him.
Yeah, it's good to know just that, if we lose, it's all his fault.
He's already passing the blame, so he doesn't have people in our chat blaming Craig for something else.
How could you blame me? I mean, been behind this team.
Well, except you're a big Diamondbacks fan. So you did pick the Diamondbacks to win the World Series.
I did not.
With no other context. You're just like, they're so much better than us.
I did not do that. That's not a thing I did.
Hey, your Cardinals won on Sunday.
I didn't do anything with the Cardinals.
The Diamondbacks are leading the Rockies 6-2.
Yeah.
But it's the top of the fifth in Coors Field.
No wonder Craig's in such a good
a lead
move.
is never safe there.
So excited about
Yes, Corbin Carroll and I.
His boy Baxter. That's why he hates Dinger so much. He's a big Baxter fan.
That's such a lie. But I do hate Dinger. That part's true. Except if, every game, I'm the biggest Rockies fan in the world.
I was going to say, Dinger helped the Padres out yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and they could beat the Dodgers and help us even more. So go Dinger.
As long as they don't affect your Diamondbacks.
Yeah, Dinger come back.
Oh, wow.
Any kind of fool could see.
Oh, wow.
Baxter's wrong.
Just off the top of your head.
With the mascots. He's been practicing that.
Hollow Notes, it's living
sitting right there.
Living rent-free.
Rent-free.
Right in your
my head.
Yep.
As an earworm. I'll pay off this tease. 327, 340 on base, 633 slugging, 973 OPS. That is Fernando Tatis Jr.'s line over his last 10 starts. 50 plate appearances, 16 hits, 3 doubles, 4 homers, a couple steals.
Yeah.
2 homers or 2 hits and a steal last night.
Great to see with that leg, with the stress reaction injury. It's good to see him doing that, feeling comfortable enough. Also, look, I keep mentioning Manny Machado's home run. It was Fernando that got on base with the single.
Yes.
So he has those numbers illustrate it. He's been doing really, really well coming off that injury.
Fernando Tatis Jr. is the single most scrutinized player in the Padres, and he probably will be for his whole career. And listen, the acts of 2022 will follow him for a very, 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 very long time. A lot of things followed Kobe for a very, 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 very long time. Nonetheless, this guy is a machine. He's not going to come through literally every time. So, I even saw in our Padres Hot Tub Discord last night, the kind of, Fernando swinging at that slider outside. Can't you take that pitch? Why can't you take that pitch? Literally when he had 2 hits and a steal in the game. Right. He's not going to get a hit every at bat, but it kind of feels like some portions of the Padre fan base wants to be against him. And unless he gets a hit every at bat, they're like, nope, going to put another demerit on your record.
Yeah, look, there are pieces of Fernando's game, like there are pieces of Ariza's game or Manny's game or whoever, Xander, where they want to get better, right? There's places for improvement, but you want Fernando to play Fernando's game. You want Tatis to be Tatis. And that is when he's at his best. If you try and make him into anything else, you're not going to get the production from him that you do get in the numbers that you just mentioned and the big moments. And he's been doing it offensively and defensively, been part of the big plays. Saved the Padres runs, not to mention gave the Padres runs. And I think it's great to see for him. The power is clearly there and has been back there for since he came off the injury list. And he talked about, too, how he had bulked up a little. He had gained a little weight before he came off the before he came off the injured list. And, he was talking to the media about it, I'm going to lose it within the first 2 weeks because, that's kind of the weight that you gain when you're sitting around and you're not playing every day and then you lose it right away. But at the same time, he worked on some upper body strength. He was able to use those legs when he could for the reaction. And I just think that he's showing you what he wants to do here down this home stretch as well. He's showing, I want to contribute. I want to be a part of these wins. I want to help my teammates. I think that's been the biggest thing about him.
In those 10 starts, Fernando has scored 11 runs and driven in 9. I mean, he is a run creator. He creates offense for this team, and it's not always going to be him driving in the run. It's not always going to be him hitting a homer or coming through with runners in scoring position. A lot of times he's the initiator. He's the guy with no one on base that's getting on base and is leading to set up Profar or Machado or Merrill.
And it can't be said enough. They won't drive in every run. Obviously, they'll leave some guys in scoring position. They will leave some guys stranded. You hope it's not too much or in a bad spot. But the pressure that he puts on pitchers and they put on pitchers when they've got guys on base, driving up the pitch count, making the pitcher work, making the pitcher have to account for them. And then Fernando in the box. I mean, Fernando is a presence. There is not going to be a pitcher that is going to be like, oh, here comes Fernando. I can take it easy right here. He's someone that you've got to give your best stuff. You've got to work really hard to get him out most of the time anyways. So I think that he's going to continue to improve. He's only 25 years old. He continues to work very hard at his craft. He's got the injury thing following him around, and it bothers him. He hates the injury moniker that goes along with him. He's got what happened in 2022, so he's got something to prove, and I think that the way he's come off the injured list is what you would want to expect from him for a guy that wishes he would have been around the whole season.
Meanwhile, let's take a look at today's game, and one of the most important things that came out of last weekend was Dylan Cease throwing 6 shutout innings, striking out 10, and regaining that form that had shown him to be such a dominant pitcher. He was on a run like no other before he had that rainout start in Pittsburgh, where he was held to 1 inning. And after that, he allowed 5, 3, 3, 4, 3, and 4 runs in his starts, never getting beyond 6 1/3. So that's just, the definition of mediocrity, essentially, is what he was doing. And to come back to 6 innings shutout, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, you're hoping he's finding another one of those 6 to 8 start grooves, because that could take you right to the World Series.
I think this is going to be a good test for him today. You're facing a good Astros lineup. Both of these teams are going to want to win the series. They both have something that they're playing for right now. You've got a good pitcher, a great pitcher, with Valdez across the way. So I think this is a good test for Dylan Cease today to put together good back-to-back starts. He had that one in San Francisco. That went really well for him. This is where you want him, to continue to get on that stretch and not have it be streaky.
By the way, taking a look at as we mentioned, the lineup at the beginning of the hour, and Luis Arraez being out of that lineup, you could easily look at that and go, oh, well, this must be an injury situation for Arraez because he banged his knee 2 nights ago. He did play last night. Now he went 0 for 5 last night. So was the knee bothering him? Who can say? Only Luis Arraez can truly say. But I did just look this up inside the game notes of the San Diego Padres. Padres don't have a ton of experience against Framber Valdez. Luis Arraez is one of the guys with the most at-bats against Framber Valdez. He's 1 for 7 against Framber Valdez. So that one hit was a home run, by the way. So,
hey, Luis Arraez.
Yeah, wow. Wow on that. But
I'd put him back in the lineup just for that. But I don't know the reason that he's being out today. My guess would have been to give him 2 days off in a row. However, maybe he comes off the bench at some point.
Yeah, I think I know he's available.
Yes, there you go.
Absolutely. But, just looking around, no one... Elias Diaz is 3 for 7 with a double against Framber Valdez. That's the guy who's had the most success against Valdez. Donovan Solano, 2 for 5. Xander Bogaerts, 2 for 9 with 3 walks. So not a ton of experience against Framber Valdez, who has actually been better against righties than lefties this year. He's held righties to a 209 average, lefties to 255. Of course, he gets way more righties, almost 5-1 more righties than lefties. So for Cronenworth and Merrill in the lineup, at least you've got that tiny little statistical nugget to lean on. But bottom line with Valdez, he pitches innings. So I look at this very similar to a pitcher that the Padres beat on Friday in Logan Webb. Logan Webb is a workhorse. Logan Webb is a ground ball pitcher. Framber Valdez is the ultimate ground ball pitcher right now. So you really want to get to him in the beginning of the game.
Make him work.
Before he gets that little bit of fatigue that allows that ball to sink. Like if he's hitting his spots at the bottom of the zone, he's going to be a lot of trouble, because even if the Padres get a hit or two, that double play is always waiting as a backdoor escape.
Well, that's the thing, right? You want to be aggressive, but you don't want to be aggressive hitting into double plays, but you want to be aggressive. And if that isn't working, or, you kind of take your pitches where you can in terms of working his pitch count up, right? I mean, making him work a little, fouling him off when you can, just kind of trying to put some pressure and get him a little bit out of his rhythm. He's got he's got Framber Valdez, a 3.56 ERA and 12 road starts this year, but a 1.33 ERA and 7 starts since the start of August. Dylan Cease has, this is from Astros teams of the past, of course. He's got a 4.18 ERA and 6 career starts against the Astros, but he did limit them to 1 run over 12 1/3 innings over a pair of starts last year. So some familiarity there, although I don't know how much of that crosses over to this today.
Hey, what I'm looking for today is a dominant Dylan Cease start. That's what I'm looking for.
That's what you really want to see. I mean, that's a story within the story, and that was the case for San Francisco. You want to see him string that together and feel like he's on that patch, that chunk of time where he's going to carry that into the postseason, where he's at his best, which we've seen from Dylan Cease plenty of times throughout this season, but it has been in chunks.
Diamondbacks lead Colorado 6-2 after 5 full innings at Coors Field. A little bit later on, the Braves are at the Reds. Schwellenbach against Junis. Dodgers send Landon Knack out on the mound against the Marlins, and Ryan Weathers trying to help out his old team with a little bit of benefit there. The Dodgers also reportedly have sent out Bobby Miller who started yesterday and got bombed. And I just saw on Twitter that his locker is empty in the Dodgers locker room. So
the Dodgers are like firing him off and bringing him in. Like, yeah, I mean, what do you do at this point, right? Like, you're just trying to find whatever margins you can get with things not quite going the way that they had planned for the Dodgers. And I even saw Ken Rosenthal was on something talking about how the way that they are using pitchers working within that organization, which is such a far cry from what we have always said about the Dodgers, because we've always talked about their player development and how they're able to bring these guys up and really utilize their pitchers in the best way. And even players that kind of are cast off from other teams go to the Dodgers and become better. And this year has just been one injury after another for them, and kind of taking a look behind the scenes if that's something that they're doing organizationally that's leading up to that. Who knows? I don't know the answer to that, but it's definitely now. What's interesting about that is that it's just a question in general, you know? Yeah.
Rounding out the wild card scoreboard, it's the Nationals and Mets wrapping up their series at Citi Field today, and that is Jose Quintana against DJ Hers.
Alton Gonzalez just said that Clayton Kershaw threw an 84-pitch bullpen session this afternoon.
84-pitch
bullpen session.
That's a long bullpen session.
But he's on the injured list, right? Is he trying to come back?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, they got to get somebody back.
I don't know. I can't tell who's like out of it for them.
Yeah.
And out of it, but I guess he must be one that they think maybe could make a return.
I think I literally read this in a ESPN or one of the stories Adam sent us by email yesterday of the scenario of the Dodgers down 0-2 turning to a bulky-toed Clayton Kershaw for Game 3. Like, I 100% believe that Kershaw will tell them that he's good enough to go.
Oh, yeah.
For the playoffs. Now, whether he is or not, the hitters usually let you know pretty quick.
Alden also just tweeted, Gavin Stone still experiencing soreness in his shoulder, and Dodgers manager Dave Roberts called the chances of him coming back this season, quote, very unlikely. Oh. So not a surprise. That's kind of what you figured after the last injury update from him. But you really got to wonder about their pitching staff and how they're going to make this work.
Not too much, but you do.
I mean, not too much. No, not too much, because I mean that is a good thing for the Padres if they can continue to rack up wins, and the Padres, of course, need to do what they need to do. That's the most important thing. You start to look at maybe there's some domination that you can do in terms of vulnerabilities for other teams.
Hey, if I said it earlier, if they want to lose all their games and hand over the NL West, the Padres will be here with hands extended, gratefully waiting to accept that gift. If the Dodgers want to hand it over, the Padres will take it from them and be very, very happy to do so. When we come back, final segment of the show, it's called Ask Us Anything. It's where we open up the lines to you. 833-288-0973 is our number. Give us a call, why don't you? 833-288-0973. It's 1:40 right now. You've got 10 minutes to call the show. And if you do, we'll put you on the air. All that we ask is that you come prepared with a question to ask us. Doesn't even have to be about sports. It can be about anything. Annie and Elsten coming back to wrap up the show next on The Fan. Don't let AI dictate your fantasy lineup. Don't do it. Just get bite-sized fantasy football analysis in your ears. Listen to the Sleeper King podcast, giving you all the fantasy insight you'll need in just 20 minutes a day. Every league has a Sleeper King, and it should be you. Follow the Sleeper King on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. You know what? I really appreciate that because one thing, especially something like fantasy, a short show, 20 minutes, something you could listen to while you walk the dog, something you could listen to in the shower or maybe on your commute.
Gives you all your information you need to make your picks.
Super useful. I don't need a 2-hour fantasy show. You know, give me some like 5 good nuggets in 20 minutes.
Bite-sized.
I like it.
Yeah.
Way to go. Way to go, Odyssey. Good job. Sleeper King. Let's check it out. All right, we got some folks calling in. Time to play the bumper. Still have 3 minutes to call the show if you'd like. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Here's Jim in San Diego. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the show. Ask us anything.
I really enjoy your show. And my question is, if you were Dean Spanos and you saw 44,000 people down at Petco every night for 81 games, what would you think?
I missed a real big opportunity here in San Diego.
Yeah.
A real big opportunity.
That I had a great market.
And already had the fan base for.
And now I've got a market. Now I've got a beautiful stadium I'm playing in and renting. And that's, yeah. I mean, honestly, I was thinking about this, Jim, in context to the guest we had on at 11, Sean Pendergast. Like, here are the Astros that have been to, all these American League Championship Series in the world. So I had to ask the question, and the answer was, no, it's still a Texans town. Yeah. Even when the Texans have been terrible and the Astros have been the best team.
Just like this was an NFL team. I remember talking to some NFL players, even when the Padres were the 98 team, and it still was an NFL town, right? So look, you invest in your team, you invest in your fan base a bit, and you build something maybe that the city can be proud of, and good things can happen.
Jim,
I'll leave you guys with this. Kevin Faulconer and Dean Spanos, both born on third base and think they hit a triple and are useless.
Jim, good job, man. Great call. Please call us again. 833-288-0973 if you want to jump in. Than has a question. Which team do you think will sign Ha-Seong Kim? Well,
the Dodgers.
I think it's the Giants.
I think it's the Giants too. What am I saying?
I mean, I think Dodgers are second chance.
But the Giants need they need someone, right?
Yeah.
And his best friend's on the team, and Bob Melvin really likes Ha-Seong Kim. If they have the money to do it, which I think they do, I think they're a real possibility.
Yeah. Yes, keep in mind Tyler Fitzgerald has been a great hitter at shortstop for the Giants in about 300 at-bats this year. He's not considered anywhere near the defender that Ha-Seong Kim is. And Marco Luciano, who's supposed to be such a big prospect in the Giants system and has been playing some second base, has been so bad at second base that they don't feel like they can play him there or even anywhere in the infield. So I see them thinking about sign Kim, push Fitzgerald over to second base. Now we've got an offensive second baseman. We got a defensive shortstop. I think that's the way the Giants are probably maybe going to go. Do I think it's impossible for the Padres and Ha-Seong Kim to come to terms on a deal? I do not think it is impossible. I think it's Kim possible.
But I'm ching. Yeah, I think Kim is going to rightfully look to get a lucrative contract, and he should. And if the Padres have other needs, they're just not going to be able to do it. Now, is it like Craig said? Maybe they can do it. But my thought is that he will probably get some offers from other teams and should look seriously at those.
Because Ha-Seong is one of those players that, honestly, I think because we've watched him every day, we see his weaknesses more than his strengths. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, someone from the outside goes, oh, give me a shortstop with a .330 on base percentage that can hit double-digit homers, steal 30-plus bags, and play lockdown defense. I'm looking at that as an incredible asset. Padre fans have been spent the first half of the season going, you're not good at defense anymore, which isn't true. It's just that he made more errors than we were used to, because the year before he almost made no errors wherever he played.
He didn't have the greatest of years. I think that there's a question of, was his ceiling as a hitter last year in 2023, was that kind of a ceiling? Can there be more to him than that? That's going to be a question that other teams are going to have to grapple with, or the Padres, whoever signs him. However, he's still a solid, borderline very good player, and someone that a team could use, especially if they don't have a shortstop. So I think that he's going to get some serious consideration.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to the folks who think he's not going to opt out, he absolutely 100% is going to opt out.
It hurt him a little. This year will have hurt him a little bit, but it won't have, I don't think it'll have destroyed his chances at a deal.
No. It makes it slightly more affordable if you want to keep him, and that's why I say it's not impossible that the Padres come to terms on a deal. But then they would have to decide that that's their long-term play at shortstop. And one of the biggest unanswered questions that we don't have to worry about for several weeks, hopefully for over a month, is what are you going to do at shortstop next year? What was the whole? Why did you move Xander if you're just going to move him back? So I'm very curious about that, but that's for a show in November.
For another day.
Hopefully November. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Just a minute left in our sojourn. And then Matt Scraby standing by with Tony Gwynn Jr.
It's almost game time.
It really is. It is almost time for the game. And that game is coming your way at 3:40. Sam Levitt's been at the ballpark. I think he slept
the night.
there. Yeah, I think he slept there. So. He wrapped up the bar at the loft. He put the caps on all of the bottles, pulled out a cot, and just night.
I'm serious. I think that could have been the case. The guards walk in the morning, and he's like, hey, fresh as a daisy. He's like, hey, guys, let's go. Time for some baseball.
I think he went home and slept. I'm not positive, but I guess we'll find out. Either way,
he's raring to go.
Scrapes and Gwynn, pregame show 2:40, first pitch 3:40. Enjoy it, everybody. There is a wave match again tonight against Portland down at the stadium. Hope to see you there at 7 o'clock. But we'll all be back with a roundtable tomorrow at 10. For Braden and Annie, I'm Craig.
Bye.
See ya.